Chapter 38-23. Is that the array eye? Yiqing Luo looked at that withered tree as her brows rose slightly. Dmo Xian stood behind as he looked over. Yes. How do we destroy that array eye? Yiqing Luo looked sideways at the man's side profile as she asked. Dmo Xian raised his hand and held her shoulders. Wait, there are helpers outside. Helpers? Yiqing Luo was puzzled. Who are you referring to? Dmo Xian smiled. You'll know when we get out. He was still keeping her in suspense. Looked like the helpers outside were people she knew. Gue Wu, Zhou Mo, and the rest were already in the array. Who else could help them? Moreover, the person who could help to break such a sinister array was definitely very powerful. She knew someone who was extremely powerful. Who could it be? Just as they were talking, a group of people had already chased up. Qiao Yinyan carried Xiao Qiu, who only had a mouth. His face didn't show any signs of disgust. When he saw that withered tree, he opened his mouth and asked, "Is that the array eye? Destroy that array eye and the array will be destroyed, right?" Pei Sheng said as he walked towards that withered tree. He even raised his hand as his dark golden pupils were filled with eagerness. Ah Sheng, stop! Yiqing Luo berated sternly as she raised her hand to create a wave of profound wave, blocking Pei Sheng's hand. Pei Sheng was forced to retreat 2 steps as he looked at Yiqing Luo in a daze. Don't move, can't you see the dense evil qi lingering around the array eye? Yiqing Luo glanced at him. If it could be touched and destroyed at will. That wasn't the style of the secluded palace. Pei Sheng was stunned. Then what should we do? Yiqing Luo pursed her lips. Her vision shifted as she looked at the huge collapsing buildings. Her 5 fingers clenched even tighter. If she didn't speed up, this auction was really going to be swallowed by the array. The helpers that Xian mentioned, when would they take action? As though he sensed the fluctuation of her emotions. Dmo Xian's large palm patted lightly on her back, comforting her. Yiqing Luo raised her head and looked at the man beside her. Just as he was about to ask. At this moment, a wave of energy vibrated around the withered tree. Like a few invisible waves, they shook off the surrounding fluctuations. The vines that were entangled above were chopped into several pieces with a crackling sound. The Wugu master who was dying on the ground. Even cries of pain could be heard. Just as the vines broke. She closed her eyes forever. At the same time, the Yu Jiwen, who was being harassed by countless aberrations. His body fell straight to the ground. In the blink of an eye. The corpse turned into a pile of white bones. Then, everyone saw about 100 corpse puppet goo crawl out from the white bones and quickly crawl towards the witchcraft goo master on the ground. The profound practitioners of the various forces thought that these corpse puppet goo were using the same trick to control the goo master's body. But he didn't expect, in the blink of an eye. The Wu Goo master turned into a skeleton. He was swallowed into the stomach of the goo worm that he had raised. Qiao Yinyan immediately threw the ball in his hand towards the direction of the corpse puppet goo. The last corpse puppet goo, settle those first. The ball's tongue rolled up and its round body pounced towards the direction of the corpse puppet goo. Bam! Just as the aberrations were about to eat the last corpse puppet goo. That withered tree suffered a heavy blow. Chapter 38-24. Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian were the closest. When the fluctuation was released, Chen Fang's eyes widened. The 2 of them retreated swiftly. Immediately following that, the majestic air wave, like a raging wave, surged violently. That withered tree shook more and more, as though it was about to crack. The whistling sound of the wind and waves slapped against everyone's eardrums. Yiqing Luo held Dmo Xian's arm, squinted her eyes and looked at the withered tree. Did the helper you mentioned take action? Dmo Xian nodded slightly. Yiqing Luo frowned tightly. To tell the truth, When he saw that everything around him had been overturned and collapsed by that boundless power, yet that withered tree did not move at all, he felt a chill run down his spine. Yi Qing Luo could tell. It was not feasible to destroy the array from the outside. But if they rashly took action, they would also be affected by the lingering sinister qi around the array. How could they destroy this array? Yi Qing Luo was deep in thought. Perhaps the helper outside the array was a little too impatient. That withered tree shook violently. The originally withered tree branch, with a kacha sound, actually broke off. That broken branch rolled along with the strong wind. It wildly turned into a sharp blade, directly piercing towards Yi Qing Luo's face. The speed of the sharp blade was extremely fast. And the lingering profound ray was very shocking, as though it was going to pierce through the sky. Yi Qing Luo only had time to see a trace of silver edge, as it flashed past her eyes. A strong murderous intent spread out in front of her. She wanted to dodge. But it was too late. Immediately, she raised her hand. Her 5 fingers moved, the glower flame fan opened up, blocking in front of her. Bam! The sharp end of the broken branch hit the glower flame fan. But the strength was not as big as she imagined. Sounds of cold air being sucked in were heard from the surrounding. There were also people who were faintly panicking, screaming, "Overlord!" Yi Qing Luo's gaze moved, and saw in front of the glower flame fan, that broken branch was firmly held in the palm of a large palm. It was Dmo Xian. He used his own hand to stop that broken branch. Yi Qing Luo's pupils slightly widened. He stared at the broken branch in his hand, which was already bleeding. She quickly closes the glowing flame fan and hugs the man's arm with both hands. Xian. In such a situation, it was not impossible for her to block it with the glowing flame fan. Furthermore, based on Dmo Xian's ability, even if he was injured, he could easily repel this broken branch. However, he chose to use the most direct, and also the most stupid method. Dmo Xian moved his fingers. He furrowed his brows slightly. Yi Qing Luo's eyes almost turned red. Does it hurt? It doesn't hurt. Dmo Xian let go of the broken branch. His palm had already been scraped by the force of the broken branch. Flesh and blood flew everywhere, looking extremely horrifying. Yi Qing Luo's eyes turned even redder as her words started to choke. Are you an idiot? Why are you blocking with your hand? Dmo Xian allowed her to hug his arm anxiously. He lowered his eyes to look at her with a doting gaze. Looking at her anxious and touched expression, he lowered his head again. His chin rested on her hair, the corners of his mouth twitched. Not knowing if it was because of the injury, his voice was a little deep, sounding very magnetic. I didn't think so much. Yi Qing Luo didn't know how to answer for a moment. Concern causes confusion. The more worried a person is at the most critical juncture, the more unable to keep calm. Almost could only rely on the body's instinct to move. Even the calm Dmo Xian. When he met with her, he was still unable to keep 100% calm. Chapter 38-25. Alright, it's just a small injury, it's nothing. Dmo Xian comforted her warmly. After we leave the auction, compensate me properly. Yi Qing Luo was both angry and amused as she raised her head and stared at him furiously. You're still joking at such a time. Alright, be good, I'm fine. Dmo Xian replied. Yi Qing Luo drew out a handkerchief and bandaged his injured hand. Bandaging it. Her gaze was suddenly fixed on the ground, on top of the broken branch. She was stunned as her bandaging hand also stopped. What's the matter? Dmo Xian asked puzzledly. Yi Qing Luo pointed to the front. Look at that broken branch. That broken branch was intercepted by Dmo Xian's bare hands. Then he casually threw it onto the ground. If she didn't remember wrongly, That broken branch should have been stained with Dmo Xian's blood. But at this moment, the broken branch was completely clean, without a single trace of blood. Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian looked at that broken branch for a moment, and both of them raised their heads at the same time, looking at each other as they spoke in unison. This is the method to break the array? Blood. That's right. It was fresh blood. This array was extremely sinister. It even used the revered Lord's blood to activate the array. So, as long as blood was used, it would be able to destroy this array core. In order to verify this thought, Yiqing Luo helped Dmo Xian to tie the handkerchief as she held the glower flame fan tightly and suddenly shot a hurricane towards that withered tree. The profound rays neared. The thick black chi which lingered around the withered tree bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it twisted upwards. Yiqing Luo leaped up and neared that withered tree from the other side. In a split second, the thick black chi surged and rolled. The dark sky was covered with a layer of hazy fog. Yiqing Luo's eyes turned slightly chilly as her fingers moved and the red profound rays turned into huge waves. The moment the thick black chi was attracted, Yiqing Luo was already nearing the withered tree. The minute she neared, Yiqing Luo felt a dull pain in her heart as a scorching flame started to burn fiercely. Oh! This burning heat was like a raging flame, scorching her internal organs. It was as if he was going to burn her into ashes. She groaned in pain. Her movement stopped in midair. Little Luo, Dmo Xian's worried voice drifted into her ears. The man's deep voice was like a warm current that seeped into her heart. It also alleviated the burning sensation in her chest that felt like it was being torn apart. She closed her eyes slightly. He steadied his mind. She turned around and looked in their direction, revealing a faint smile. The hurricane moved. The wind blew her hair, her dress. Like a blossoming rose, incomparably gorgeous. Clearly, his face was so pale. His brows were tightly knitted, as if he was enduring some sort of pain. But she was still smiling. His smile was firm, and it made one's heart surge with lofty sentiments. I'm fine, don't worry. Since I've promised to walk out of the auction in front of everyone, I've promised to destroy the Palace of Gloomy Darkness plan, so I'll definitely do it. Her voice was soft. It was like a feather fluttering in the wind, and it seeped into everyone's ears. After Yiqing Luo finished her words, she took a deep breath and forcefully endured the pain within her body which made her combusted and made her blood boil. He turned into a streak of light and approached the withered tree. The nearer he got. 3 steps, 2 steps, 1 step, Yiqing Luo felt that there was an indescribable impulse surging within her. As though it was summoning her. As though it was urging her to do something. Chapter 38-26. But immediately following that, a burst of raging profound energy suddenly gushed over. That profound glow was majestic as it shook the entire space. It was what Dmo Xian had mentioned. The helper outside the array. The helper over there had started a new round of attack. Yiqing Luo felt this surge of vibration profound energy attacking her. She instinctively wanted to evade it. But it was too late. The overwhelming profound glow poured down in torrents. Yiqing Luo's fingertips swept swiftly, creating a gust of strong wind to reduce some of the pressure. But what made her surprised was that majestic profound energy kept vibrating, but it didn't cause any harm to her at all. She didn't know if it was an illusion. She vaguely felt a sense of familiarity from this surge of profound energy. Just at this moment, a ray of black dazzling light pierced her eyes under the sky of profound glow. She frowned as she fixed her eyes on it. She saw a palm-sized black hole in the middle of the withered tree, which was emitting a black and dense aura. That black glow was different from the evil chi. But it was a kind of glow which could be seen by the naked eye. Pitch black, but dazzling. What was going on? Earlier she didn't seem to have seen such an eye-catching thing on the withered tree. It's right there. Lass, drip your blood on it. In her mind, Old Man Tsang cried out in surprise. His voice had just landed. Yiqing Luo only felt that the boiling blood in her body was boiling hot. As though it was about to gush out from her body. This was her blood. It was affecting her thoughts, making her drip her blood on that withered tree. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes slightly. Immediately, she lifted her feet and walked towards the withered tree. Under that majestic profound energy vibration, Yiqing Luo slowly raised her arm. She waved her glower flame fan. Her fingertips hurt. Drops of fresh blood slid down, dripping into that black glow. The fishy and sweet smell of blood had a hint of fragrance. When the fresh blood fell into that black hole. Rumble, Yiqing Luo's ears only heard a deafening explosion sound. Intense black glow shot out in all directions. Her entire body was entangled in it. Yiqing Luo only felt a squeezing sensation in her chest, causing her throat to gush out a fishy sweetness. It was as if something was tearing inside his body. The pain was unspeakable. But, under this extreme pain, Yiqing Luo actually faintly felt a ray of white light flashing past her mind. It flashed faintly. Something seemed to want her to catch it. She was just about to grab him. The white light disappeared in an instant. Titan popped up in her mind again. It was as if something was deliberately attracting and seducing her. She concentrated and tried to adjust her consciousness. Bit by bit, she approached the white light. During the chase with the white light, even the pain from the pressure in his body was thrown to the back of his mind. Wisps of red light gradually passed through the thick black gas in the sky and poked their heads out. Boundless brilliance began to envelop the horizon. Everyone's vision was tightly fixed on Yiqing Luo. Right now, Yiqing Luo was their only hope. As long as Yiqing Luo succeeded, they would be able to leave this place. But in everyone's heart, they were perturbed and uneasy. The young lady's hand was pressed on that withered tree. Her eyes were tightly shut and her face was filled with obvious pain. The overlord's mood became increasingly gloomy by the side. He wanted to go forward to help but was held down by Gui Wu. Chapter 38-27. He was afraid that Yiqing Luo wouldn't be able to bear this kind of pain. He couldn't break out of the formation. In the surroundings, the majestic and ferocious dark force was still vibrating wave after wave. On the Nether Prime side, the thick black gas was still flowing along with the blood that was splattering everywhere. The formation eye and the various forces collided with each other. Yiqing Luo's face turned paler by the minute. Originally, he had fought several rounds of battles in the auction and was already exhausted. Moreover, in the space of consciousness, she had used too much power, which was extremely damaging to her body. Now, he was bleeding and suffering from the crushing pain of the withered tree. He chased after the white light in his mind again and again. Yiqing Luo only felt that her consciousness had gradually turned blank and started to blur. His four limbs felt heavy, as if they weighed 1,000 kilograms. That white light seemed to be teasing her. He stuck his head out. On the other side, it appeared indistinctly. She furrowed her brows and her body trembled slightly. His palm, which was pressed against the withered tree, felt a stinging pain. It was as if there was a suction force firmly sucking her palm. Her breathing also gradually became weaker. She couldn't help but furrow her brows as she felt the blood flowing out of her body. Hold on, hold on, hold on. There seemed to be a voice in his mind that kept repeating these 3 words. She no longer had the strength to discern the direction of the sound and the owner of the sound. She only knew that this voice caused her consciousness to become fuzzy, and then she suddenly woke up. Yiqing Luo's breathing became smoother bit by bit. He struggled to maintain his consciousness. Little Luo, Dmo Xian saw the changes in Yiqing Luo's expression as his eyes stared fixedly at Yiqing Luo. His face no longer had the usual noble elegance. His breathing was heavy, and his heart was clenched tightly. He wanted to step forward and help Yiqing Luo share her pain. However, Guo Wu's hand continued to press down on his shoulder. Dmo Xian was very clear. He could not go forward. He could not interrupt Lil Luo Air from breaking the formation. Lil Luo had already expended so much energy and put in so much effort to destroy the array I. If he missed this opportunity, everything that Lil Luo had done, all the pain that she was suffering now, was all in vain. Furthermore, Lil Luo's personality. He understood it better than anyone else. If Lil Luo was awake, she would definitely not let him take the risk to come over. Little Luo Little Luo The repeated calls were transmitted into Yiqing Luo's ears, who was trying her best to stay awake. She pursed her lips and bit down hard on her lower lip, until the smell of blood filled his mouth. Only then did she stop moving. The piercing pain made her vision blur. The white light in her mind flickered and floated in front of her. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed. It was almost instinctive. His consciousness wrapped around it as he searched around it. Boom! His sea of consciousness suddenly fluctuated. It was as if something had exploded. In front of Yiqing Luo, a vast expanse of white light flickered. Then, her body was like a feather, her legs weak and powerless. Boom! His mind buzzed again. Like a tidal wave, the profound strength surged wildly in his body. Wave after wave, they violently squeezed into the profound heart jade. The surging profound energy easily soothed the pain from the squeezing in her body. Replacing it was a relaxed feeling in both body and mind. The surrounding heaven and earth's spiritual qi encircled her body. Chapter 38-28. Boom! Another roar was heard. Yiqing Luo's surrounding aura vibrated and turned into circles of ripples as it rippled outwards. Like a tide, the surging profound energy gradually turned into a whirlpool. The alluring red glow intertwined with that whirlpool. It enveloped the young lady's blazing figure. The whirlpool rolled wildly. The red glow was like fire. The aura surged like waves, one after another. This scene instantly caused all the profounders from the various powers to be flabbergasted. There was no way to conceal the shock on their faces. Is this an advancement? Imperial Madam. Imperial Madam actually advanced at the critical juncture of destroying the array core? Not advancement, it's a breakthrough. This is a breakthrough. The various powerhouses' cultivators looked at the surging profound glow in the sky. There were large patches of thunder clouds as they gathered swiftly. The crowd was stunned. With thunder clouds, it wasn't just advancement, it was a breakthrough. One must know that a breakthrough was tens of thousands of times harder than advancement. Some people were stuck at the last stage of advancement and might not be able to break through in their entire lives. That was a leap from one profound grade to another. Exquisite Pavilion's two hall masters stared at Yiqing Luo's direction as they voiced out the doubts in their hearts, from the aura of her breakthrough. It doesn't seem especially strong. Based on her status as Imperial Madam, this breakthrough should at least be into the legendary realm. Legendary realm, God-mystic realm. Once one stepped into the God-mystic realm, in layman's terms, it meant that one had cultivated to become a god. This was the target which many cultivators were striving for. In the various powerhouses' cultivators' hearts, Yiqing Luo's ability had definitely surpassed the God-mystic realm. She was a legend who was on par with the Overlord. But when they heard the two exquisite Pavilion's hall master's doubts, even he was a little stunned. Indeed, Yiqing Luo's surrounding profound energy aura seemed ferocious. But in actual fact, it wasn't especially strong. Attracting thunder clouds was definitely a breakthrough. If it was a breakthrough, then it would be a breakthrough from one profound grade to another profound grade realm. Based on Yiqing Luo's performance, Yiqing Luo's ability should have long entered the spirit profound stage. But Yiqing Luo had a breakthrough this time. Surely it couldn't be that Yiqing Luo had broken through from the spirit profound realm to the strongest exalted profound realm, right? This was absolutely impossible. Looking at the entire world, it was said that the only person who had reached the exalted mystic realm was the divine emperor who had passed away a long time ago. After that, there was no news of a second person. Even Di Zun. Everyone's guesses about him were only at the divine profound realm. Then, the Lady Emperor's breakthrough this time was from the sage mystic realm to the immortal mystic realm, a breakthrough to become a god? Everyone's heart was still extremely shocked. In the Earth realm, the majority of profound practitioners were around the early stage of the Sage Profound realm. Those who were able to reach the 5th level of the Sage Profound realm were already rare experts. Moreover, after reaching the Profound Sky realm and entering the Myth realm, the Profound Sky realm strength would increase tremendously. Every profound rank had 15 ranks to form a great profound rank. The Empress was so young, yet she was able to maintain her Sage Mystic Profound rank 15 to deal with monsters that could wipe them out in a matter of minutes. She was also fighting against the majestic Yuzun. It was already very powerful. As long as Madame D succeeded in her breakthrough, Madame D had become even more powerful. They had even more hopes of leaving this broken array. Various powerhouses cultivators looked at Yiqing Luo with eyes filled with hope. Just waiting for Yiqing Luo to break through. After the profound qi went round and round, circulating a few rounds. Chapter 38-29. Immediately following that, clang, a sound was heard. Her profound aura fluctuated as it gradually calmed down. The bewitching red light was still shining brightly, swaying her alluring figure. Everyone's sight was fixated on Yiqing Luo without blinking. They were all looking forward to witnessing the scene of a young lady breaking through the Sage Profound realm and stepping into the Spirit Profound realm. Stepping into the Spirit Profound realm and becoming a god was already a historical scene. Not to mention. And it was a young lady of Yiqing Luo's age. It could be said that in the entire Earth boundary, they had never seen one. When the profound glow which enveloped Yiqing Luo's surroundings started to dissipate, their eyes were staring at Yiqing Luo without letting go. But, when Yiqing Luo retracted her hand from the dead tree and opened her eyes, everyone's surprised and shocked expression froze on their faces. Did they see wrongly? Yiqing Luo's surrounding aura. Sage Profound realm. But the aura of Sage Profound realm? There were quite a number of cultivators from large forces present with extremely high cultivation. They could easily sense Yiqing Luo's aura after her advancement. Most importantly, Yiqing Luo's surrounding Sage Profound aura was very unstable. This meant to say, Yiqing Luo's breakthrough this time was not the so-called stepping into the Spirit Profound realm, but from the Sky Profound realm to Sage Profound realm. Everyone's expression became extremely complicated. Each of them looked at each other, unable to believe their own eyes. How could it be possible to break through to the Sage Profound realm? She was obviously so powerful. She was so powerful that they felt that only this woman could be a match for the Di Zun. But her profound grade was actually so unexpected. Previously on Yiqing Luo, they indeed only sensed an extremely weak profound aura. At that time, they thought, this was just Yiqing Luo deliberately disguising her own strength. Unexpectedly. Was that true? Your expressions, what are you trying to express? A deep and husky voice, even if it was just a soft voice, it was extremely majestic. The moment the man opened his mouth, An invisible pressure was released. Everyone only felt a heavy pressure, pressing on their shoulders. Overlord, Overlord. Everyone's hearts sank as they spoke with trembling voices. Dmo Xian only lifted his eyelids, his eyes were very indifferent, his tone was also very indifferent. This Lord's woman, whatever profound grade she is, it's not up to you to tell her what to do. His voice paused slightly. He had a faint smile on his face as the corners of his mouth twitched. He looked a little sarcastic. Just you bunch of trash, and you have the nerve to be surprised by little Luo's profound grade? These words were filled with sarcasm. Everyone felt a chill down their spines. They lowered their heads and stood ramrod straight. Zhou Mo snorted frivolously as he continued Dmo Xian's words and ridiculed, "A bunch of high-leveled scum, now that you know that you can't even defeat a sky-profound realm cultivator, don't you feel ashamed?" Everyone's pupils constricted. Leaning against Gui Wu, Zhou Mo crossed his arms across his chest and smiled like a yuppie. Could it be that this young master is wrong? You're a bunch of trash. In the face of danger, you only know fear and panic, but you're not willing to do anything. Aren't you ashamed to let a 15-year-old girl, a girl whose profound rank is much lower than yours, protect you? In a few words. The profound practitioners of the various major forces were flushed with anger and their faces were flushed with anger. Chapter 38:30. They were indeed shocked by Yiqing Luo's profound grade. They also thought that a profound grade like Yiqing Luo shouldn't display that kind of sharpness. But they had neglected it. Yiqing Luo was a young sky profound cultivator, but she relied on her own strength to save all of them. It made them feel from the bottom of their hearts. Treating her as the only hope to break the array. So what if their profound grades were higher than Yiqing Luo? So what if their abilities were above Yiqing Luo? They were totally incomparable to a young lady. On Yiqing Luo. Profound grade wasn't important at all. Her potential, her ability, was the real reason why they were convinced. They shouldn't be here, pointing fingers at Yiqing Luo's profound grade. Instead, they should reflect on themselves. Profound grade, powerful ability, so what? Unable to use their own strength, to do something that they thought was meaningful. What was the use of such power? They couldn't refute. They were indeed trash. After Yiqing Luo opened her eyes, she heard Dmo Xian defending her and Zhou Mo's words. She didn't have any special feelings. To her, those people were just strangers. She didn't care about their thoughts. Following her breathing, she adjusted the profound qi that was still surging wildly in her profound jade heart. There was also the dark force that was continuously circulating in his body for a few days. She didn't expect. He had actually broken through in one fell swoop at this critical juncture. Just now, the white dot that was swimming around in his mind, the white dot that was more naughty than a mantis shrimp, was the opportunity to break through. After she grabbed hold of that opportunity, she felt the change in her own body's aura. Finally broke through. Since the last time when she contracted with Black Tortoise, Dmo Xian had suppressed her advancement and breakthrough power. She had never come across this opportunity. It was all thanks to this array. It made her breakthrough extremely smooth. She closed her eyes and clenched her fingers. The profound qi that overflowed from her fingertips vibrated. Her heart was calm. Her mind slowly returned to peace. Profound qi was still surging in her profound jade heart circulation and her limbs and bones. Just at this moment, among the crowd below, someone suddenly exclaimed, "Look! Madame D is about to advance again. Her aura is starting to fluctuate again." These words caused everyone to suck in a breath of cold air. All of them turned their gazes towards Yiqing Luo in unison. As expected, he saw Yiqing Luo standing beside the withered tree, her eyes slightly closed. A ball of demonic red profound light enveloped her entire body. Boom! The air vibrated. The air rippled. F***CK. Sage Profound 2nd grade. No. He's at the 3rd level of the Sage Profound realm. F***CK. 4th rank, 4, When everyone sensed the change in Yiqing Luo's surrounding aura, he was completely dumbfounded. This was even more shocking than knowing that Yiqing Luo had just stepped into the Sage Profound stage. They could hardly believe their eyes. Was it really that easy to advance from the Sage Profound realm to the Minor realm? Crossing 3 or 4 ranks in a matter of minutes? They weren't practicing the same mystic class system, were they? It took them 8 to 10 years to advance a grade. This young girl in front of him, swish swish swish. Chapter 38-31. Looking at the entire Earth realm, or even the upper realm. To be able to break through 3 or 4 grades consecutively at this age and at this profound grade. There was only Yiqing Luo alone. Everyone's hearts were on the verge of collapsing. Where the hell did this pervert come from? Just based on Sky Profound 9th grade profound grade, she contracted 4 sacred beasts and a mutated mirage beast. And she had the ability to go against Lord Yu. Not only did she break through when she was breaking the array, she even broke several grades consecutively. Not only did she break through, she even broke through several grades consecutively. Everyone stared at Yiqing Luo's devastatingly beautiful face, but her features were obviously young and tender. They felt that their hearts were about to explode. Comparing oneself to others was infuriating. They no longer dared to use their dog eyes to look down on others. Finally, Yiqing Luo finally stopped steadily at the Sage Profound 4th grade's aura. The surging profound energy in her body finally stopped. This time, Yiqing Luo was certain. She had really advanced completely. After the advancement, Yiqing Luo felt a warm current of profound energy, slowly dispersing her earlier fatigue. Even the air seemed to have become purer and cleaner. She could even clearly sense the surrounding heaven and earth's spiritual qi. Finally, she took another step forward. She finally was one step closer to Xian. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled upwards. When her long and narrow eyes opened, she looked at him. The corner of her eyes overflowed with a coquettish glow. As though a captivating poppy flower was hooked at the corner of the young lady's eyes. She slowly turned around, her back facing the crowd. Then she raised her hand. Everyone only had time to see clearly that pair of slender fair wrists flashed past. Immediately after, a powerful and terrifying force slashed towards the withered tree. At the same time, outside the formation, a majestic and tyrannical energy suddenly rose. Kacha, the dead tree broke into pieces. As of this moment, the collapsing, swaying auction suddenly stopped. The sky full of dark clouds also dispersed at this moment, revealing the light on the horizon. Various powerhouses cultivators were like withered trees coming back to life, fish on the verge of death, seeing water, their faces revealed an expression of escaping death. The light shone on every corner of the auction. It also presented the entire ruins in front of the citizens of the land domain. At the moment when the formation was broken, Yang Kai's eyes lit up. The young girl was pressed into the man's arms. She could smell the elegant sandalwood scent of a man. It was reassuring. She curled her pink lips and wrapped her arms around the man's waist. Ah Xian, I did it. You know how it feels to be worried about me, yet you're willing to let me worry about you like this. Dmo Xian's arms tightened as he felt the soft body of the person in his arms and smelled the delicate fragrance of the person in his arms. His restless heart. Only then did he seem to have come back to life. Yiqing Luo raised her head, her eyes curved as she smiled and said, "This is my fault, so, tonight, I will obediently atone for my own mistake. His voice fell. She lowered her voice and smiled faintly. Are you satisfied with this? Dmo Xian's arms tightened again. Then, he pulled her away. He lowered his head and looked at her with a burning gaze. Are you serious? Yiqing Luo's eyes were still curved as she smiled and nodded. I'm serious. His eyes deepened. He lowered his head and rested his chin on her shoulder. By the side of her ear was the man's deep and husky voice. I've remembered it, this is what you said yourself. Yiqing Luo smiled as she hugged the man's back. Just as this sweet atmosphere surrounded them. Chapter 38-32. Yiqing Luo's eyes suddenly lit up as she popped her head out from the man's arms. Outside the ruins, dust billowed as a slender figure slowly walked over. A lady dressed in a sea blue long dress entered Yiqing Luo's sight. Her looks were stunning and cold to the extreme. Like a winter plum blossom on an iceberg, proud and aloof. When the woman's beautiful eyes, which were overflowing with a faint blue light, met his eyes, his heart trembled. Yiqing Luo had already pushed Dmo Xian away and pounced towards the lady. Little Qing Wu. That's right. The lady in front of her was Jun Qing Wu, who went to the upper realm to investigate the person behind the secluded palace. Ever since she left Nirvana realm, she and Jun Qing Wu had never met each other again. It turned out that the person who attacked the array's eye was the helper that Dmo Xian mentioned. It was Jun Qing Wu. Yiqing Luo pounced forward and hugged the lady. The lady's cold face revealed a tinge of red. As though she wasn't used to being so close to someone. But looking at Yiqing Luo's joyous expression, the lady still didn't push Yiqing Luo away but raised her hand and gently hugged her back. This response made Yiqing Luo very surprised. One must know that her little Qing Wu was so cold and arrogant. She would never show any enthusiasm on the surface. To be able to hug her back, she had already given her enough face. The smile on Yiqing Luo's face bloomed even more brilliantly. How did you know I was here? Did Xian tell you? Yiqing Luo asked with a smile. Jun Qing Wu nodded. The overlord informed me to rush over, but he didn't have time to tell me anything. By the time I rushed over, he had already entered the array. Yiqing Luo lowered her head as she gave an embarrassed smile. Xian must have been overly worried about her. Hence he couldn't wait any longer and rushed into the array to look for her after informing Jun Qing Wu. Then, how did you know I was going to break the array? And you accurately found the array's eye and coordinated so well? Earlier when she destroyed the array's eye. If it wasn't for the external force which allowed her to see the blind spot of the array's eye and drip her blood into that blind spot, they were probably still trapped in the auction. Moreover, she did not have enough opportunities to seize the opportunity to successfully break through. Jun Qingwu looked behind her and said, "It's all thanks to your friend's timely arrival. Her battle pet provided me with an accurate solution." My friend? Yiqing Luo was slightly stunned when she heard that. He heard the word battle pet again. Yiqing Luo subconsciously looked to the side, at Xiao Yinyan who was hugging Qiu. A battle pet that came to help. It seemed that it was only this mutant beast of the Shadow Clan. Long time no see, Qing Luo can't even see my existence. The familiar tone, the familiar pause between each word, like a robot, emotionless and flat, rang in his ears. Yiqing Luo looked over Jun Qingwu's shoulder. Not far away, he saw a petite girl dressed in a pink dumpling outfit. She looked very much like a little girl who had mistakenly entered a battlefield. Yiqing Luo's eyes widened in joy. Shadow. Wasn't that person Mo Yuing? Who would have thought that she would actually come? Mo Yuing took small steps as she walked over. Then she raised her hands and tilted her head stiffly. Her empty and soulless eyes looked at Yiqing Luo as she spat out a word, hug. Yi Qing Luo was melted by her cuteness. She immediately stretched out her arms and hugged Mo Ying. Chapter 38-33. Mo Ying learnt from Yi Qing Luo and hugged her back. Her tone was stiff as she replied word by word, "Worried about you. Meeting an old friend." Yi Qing Luo's brows were filled with smiles. She hugged Mo Ying tighter. "Thank you, Shadow." Mo Ying stiffly nestled in Yi Qing Luo's arms, expressionless. But Yi Qing Luo knew that little Shadow was shy. She let go of Mo Ying. Mo Ying immediately grabbed her little hand. Jun Qingwu said to Yi Qing Luo, "The people who came are not only the both of us, there are also those people over there. We might need to trouble you to head over there to investigate." As the two of them walked out of the auction, Yi Qing Luo then realized. Outside the auction, there were not only crowds of onlookers. There were also rows of neatly organized troops dressed in silver armor. The leader was someone whom Yi Qing Luo had met several times. The keeper of the balance historian. The historian of balance was here too? Yi Qing Luo raised her brows and exchanged glances with the historiographer. The official then walked over. "Miss Yi, long time no see." He greeted them with a forced smile on his upright and plain-spoken face. His heart was broken. Every time something big happened, Yi Qing Luo would always be there. Every time he saw her, nothing good would happen. But, seeing Dmo Xian by the side, coupled with the current situation, the librarian suppressed the collapse in his heart as he smiled at Yi Qing Luo. However, Yi Qing Luo had no intention to appreciate it. She crossed her arms in front of her chest, and the corners of her mouth curled up. She said in a mocking tone, as expected, "Every time something is over, the librarian lord will come over to clean up the mess." Being rebutted by Yi Qing Luo, the librarian's expression turned awkward. If someone hadn't reported it to the historian of balance, he didn't want to deal with this matter. What did he mean by they would only clean up after everything was over? Wasn't this just another way of saying that they were here to claim credit? Many of the court historians had dark expressions on their faces when they heard those words. Yi Qing Luo seemed as though she didn't notice it. Or perhaps, he sensed it but did not care about their emotions. Her expression was very calm as she lifted her eyelids. "What do you want to ask? Hurry up and ask." The scribe suppressed the anger in his heart. There were so many citizens and profound practitioners from various forces watching. This matter would definitely become countless versions and be publicized. He took a look at Dmo Xian, restraining the sharpness in his eyes as he patiently replied, "Miss Ye's words have really wronged us." He didn't give Yi Qing Luo a chance to open her mouth as he continued, "This time's matter in the Earth realm, we didn't sense any fluctuations or presence from the Earth realm, so I think it should be isolated by this array. I had received a report from Miss June and immediately rushed over with my men." As he spoke, he looked at Jun Qingwu. "Miss June can testify that when we rushed over, we were also stopped outside the array." Jun Qingwu furrowed her brows and looked into the eyes of the librarian. Finally, she nodded her head. Yi Qing Luo scoffed lightly, "Are you trying to prove your incompetence?" To the historian of balance, Yi Qing Luo really couldn't muster up any good impression. Every time something happened, the historian of balance rushed over, but he could not completely solve the problem. He even handed over the dark forces to the historian of balance and brought them back to the heavenly Tao to be imprisoned. A bunch of historian of balance were still able to let the dark forces people escape. And even made the dark forces people join the Palace of Darkness. After the Palace of Darkness almost destroyed Nirvana realm, they even used some prophecy as an excuse. Now they had reached the Earth realm. Chapter 38-34. The librarian's brows creased as he looked at Yi Qing Luo with a chilly gaze. "Qing Luo, you've just experienced a huge battle and need to rest. Jun Qingwu interrupted the turbulent undercurrent between the two of them. She looked at the historiographer and said coldly, "Historiographer, if you have any questions, please ask them as soon as possible. They are all very tired." Jun Qingwu intervened because she didn't want her to become enemies with the court official. Yiqing Luo wouldn't not give Jun Qingwu face. She softened her expression and glanced at the librarian indifferently. This was planned by the Palace of Tenebrous Darkness. Their goal was to seal all the elite profound practitioners in the Earth realm here and cause unrest in the Earth realm. As for their purpose, the Keeper of Records should be clear about it. Hearing Yiqing Luo's words, the face of the historiographer turned cold and serious. His ice-cold eyes flickered with a dignified and cold light. After a while, he said in a tense voice, "I understand." Yiqing Luo pointed to the ruins of the auction. "There's someone who had been drained of blood inside, rumored to be the son of the mastermind behind the Palace of Darkness. Perhaps we might be able to get some information from him." The historiographer's gaze flickered. Immediately, there were historians who flew towards the direction which Yiqing Luo pointed at. Dmo Xian had already walked over from behind, his long arm directly hooked onto Yiqing Luo, as his tone was calm and apathetic as he spoke to the librarian. "As for other matters, go and ask those people. Lil Luo is already very tired." The scribe immediately lowered his head. "Yes." Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laugh. She might as well just directly leaned into Dmo Xian's embrace. This feeling of bullying others wasn't bad at all. She was indeed quite tired. The moment Dmo Xian came over, Mo Yuing was squeezed to one side. Mo Yuing looked at her empty hand and looked at Dmo Xian who was carrying Yiqing Luo. He tilted his head and thought for a moment. It was as if he was thinking about his chances of snatching the man from the hands of a venerable sovereign. In the end, he put his hand down. The chances of snatching him away were 0, so he was too lazy to make such a fearless choice. Mo Yuing was preparing to follow behind Dmo Xian and Yiqing Luo. Suddenly, she felt a burning gaze that was tightly glued to her body. This feeling. He had sensed it ever since he broke the formation. But all her heart was on Yiqing Luo, so she didn't pay too much attention to it. At this moment, the feeling of that gaze was even more intense. It was so strong that she couldn't help but pay attention to where this gaze was coming from. Mo Yuing didn't like this feeling. She stopped in her tracks and looked in the direction of his gaze. His line of sight stopped at a tall and handsome silver-haired man. The man's eyes were fixated on her without blinking. His gaze was deep and complicated. It was an emotion that she could not understand and was too lazy to understand. Mo Yuying's line of sight was fixed on the man's embrace. She stiffly raised her hands and stretched them out in the man's direction. The man's body suddenly stiffened, and there seemed to be a storm surging in his eyes. Even Pei Sheng, who was slow to react, was stunned. At this moment, all of them could feel the chilling aura emanating from their brothers. He was so close that he could clearly see the way his brother looked at the little girl. "Brother, are you really not afraid of scaring the girl away?" Pei Sheng was shivering at the side. The man holding the mutant beast suddenly moved. Xiao Yinyan stood up. His gaze was complicated as he stared deeply at Mo Yuing. After that, step by step, he walked towards Mo Yuing. Every step he took, the expression on his face became even more complicated. Chapter 38-35. Such an oppressive pressure. This caused Mo Yuing's expressionless face to stiffen into a frown. Her empty gaze swept across the man's face. He looked at the flowing silver hair swaying in front of his eyes as he walked. He suddenly felt a sharp pain in his head. His eyes felt a little painful. Such a feeling. Mo Yuing hadn't felt it for a long time. He didn't like this feeling either. Her hollow eyes stared at the man's chest, her arms shaking up and down stiffly. Her voice was stiff and emotionless like a repeater. Qiu, come here. Master. Qiu, who was struggling in Xiao Yinyan's arms, howled. Its four limbs struggled out of Xiao Yinyan's arms and pounced towards Mo Yuing. Mo Yuing hugged Qiu. Then, he stiffly hugged her in his arms, turned around, and left. Xiao Yinyan's footsteps immediately came to a halt. His dark eyes, which were filled with huge waves, stared at Mo Ying's back view. The cold qi around his body became even more intense, almost freezing the surrounding air into ice. His whole body tensed up. He clenched his fists tightly. He seemed to be very angry. Even Pei Sheng didn't dare to approach him. Yiqing Luo naturally felt the change in the atmosphere. While Mo Yuing was looking for Qiu, she stopped and waited for Mo Yuing. Then, she saw Xiao Yinyan's terrifying gaze as he looked at Mo Ying. Rather, it was terrifying, however, that gaze wasn't filled with hatred or anything like that. Instead, it was the kind of gaze that was so complicated that no one could tell what kind of emotion it was. He could only see that. A whirlpool and a storm gathered in Xiao Yinyan's eyes. Why did Xiao Yinyan look at Mo Yuing like that? Especially, just now, when Mo Yuing stretched out her hands towards Qiu's expression changed. The aura around Xiao Yinyan grew even stronger. The whirlpool spun and the storm raged. But, amidst all these fierce and complicated emotions, there was also a kind of, it was very, very complicated, helplessness, compromise. After Mo Yuing carried Qiu away, Xiao Yinyan was like a wild beast that had gone berserk. This is, Yiqing Luo suddenly recalled what Gue Wu had said earlier. There was always someone in Xiao Yinyan's heart, there had always been a woman. Then, Xiao Yinyan didn't seem to want to talk about that woman. And the way Xiao Yinyan looked at Mo Yuing, and his attitude, could it be, the person in Xiao Yinyan's heart was Mo Yuing? No, no way. Yiqing Luo was struck by this heavenly thunder rumbling thought of hers until she was burnt on the outside and tender on the inside. Mo Ying's attitude towards Xiao Yinyan, it seemed like she didn't know Xiao Yinyan. Yiqing Luo expressed that her gossipy heart was stirring. When Mo Yuing walked over with Qiu, she asked, Shadow, do you know Xiao Yinyan? Who? Mo Yuing raised her head and asked blankly. Yiqing Luo lifted her chin towards Xiao Yinyan's direction, the person who has been watching you. I don't know him. Mo Yuing answered very straightforwardly. I don't like his eyes. Yiqing Luo, if Xiao Yinyan heard these words, it would really be a stab to his heart. She glanced at Xiao Yinyan before shifting her gaze back to Mo Yuing. She rubbed her chin and said, but I feel that he seems to know you. Mo Yuing tilted her head as her expressionless stiff face revealed a troubled expression for the first time, but, I don't know him. Yiqing Luo felt that she had to ask Xiao Yinyan why he kept staring at Mo Yuing. She was just about to call Xiao Yinyan over. Chapter 38-36. Mo Yuing. These three words were filled with hostility. However, it was also mixed with another indescribable meaning. Moreover, Xiao Yinyan's expression was so complicated that it was hard to understand. How did he know your name? Yiqing Luo pointed at Xiao Yinyan, her heart was even more certain of her previous guess. Mo Yuing shook her head stiffly, I don't know. Yiqing Luo clicked her tongue as she narrated the drama that she had imagined, the way he looked at you, made me feel that. There was once a touching relationship between the two of you, then you heartless woman, abandoned him. Mo Yuing was expressionless as she blinked her empty eyes, no. Yiqing Luo knew that Mo Yuing would not lie, nor would she lie because of such a matter. She could tell that Mo Yuing really didn't know Xiao Yinyan. And she didn't have a good impression of Xiao Yinyan. Could it be? Xiao Yinyan recognized the wrong person. Yiqing Luo felt that the possibility was very high. Why? After becoming Godless Island's island sage, you don't even dare to greet me? Xiao Yinyan's cold eyes stared at Mo Yuing without blinking, his tone was filled with ridicule. Yiqing Luo suddenly felt. This was really a big show. He even knew that Mo Yuing was Godless Island's island sage. It looked like there was really some unspeakable secret between Xiao Yinyan and Mo Yuing. And from Xiao Yinyan's tone, it was filled with ridicule, but even more so, self-deprecation. Yiqing Luo expressed. The secret between the two was very complicated. After hearing Xiao Yinyan's words, Mo Yuing finally reacted. She slowly turned her head back, her empty eyes fixed on Xiao Yinyan. After a long time, she asked, "Who are you?" She stared at him for so long. She was sizing up Xiao Yinyan's face. But in her memory, Mo Yuing didn't think that she knew him. When Mo Yuing asked this question, Xiao Yinyan's face instantly turned pale. His dark pupils were filled with whirlpools as he stared at Mo Yuing. His eyes were filled with pain and anger. "What a good, who are you, ha ha ha. You actually asked me. Who am I?" Xiao Yinyan couldn't help laughing. But that laughter was filled with pain. Mo Yuing lifted her feet and walked towards him. Step by step, she walked up to Xiao Yinyan and came to a stop. She didn't even reach Xiao Yinyan's shoulder when she stood in front of him. As Mo Yuing got closer, Xiao Yinyan's aura was constantly changing. Raging waves of qi waves, wave after wave equals fierce surging. But just as Mo Yuing neared, all the storms calmed down. Mo Yuing raised her head to look at him. The expressionless, empty eyes rolled around and blinked. Then, with a serious tone, he said, "I'm sorry, I really don't know who you are. If I accidentally forgot about you, I apologize in advance." Then, he asked again, "How do you know me? You even know my identity?" The smile on Xiao Yinyan's face gradually froze. He stared at Mo Yuing. Keep staring. Especially when he saw Mo Yuing's pair of beautiful eyes that were so dark that they were so deep that they were devoid of any emotion. His expression finally changed a little. Xiao Yinyan frowned and looked at Mo Yuing suspiciously. Chapter 38-37. His voice paused slightly as he stared at Mo Yuing and said word by word, "Do you really think that just because you are a puppet, I will forgive you?" Mo Yuing's pupils widened slightly. There seemed to be a flash of light in her extremely dark pupils. Her silvery hair swayed in front of her eyes. That heart-wrenching pain assaulted him again. Mo Yuing was unfamiliar with this kind of feeling. She slowly raised her hand and pressed it on her chest. Her lifeless eyes flickered slightly. Her long eyelashes were also fluttering. Was it heartache? Was this the feeling of heartache? She was also a person with a heart? Mo Yuing fell into her own thoughts. His eyes were wide open, and there was an extreme darkness in them. So dark that the bottom couldn't be seen. This made Xiao Yinyan felt as if he had punched into cotton. Like all the anger only belonged to him alone. The girl in front of him had no reaction at all. This realization made Xiao Yinyan's arms drop to his sides in disappointment. He forcefully shut his eyes. He staggered back a few steps. A self-deprecating chuckle came out from his mouth. Then, he turned around and walked weakly in another direction with weak steps. His back view looked extremely lonely. As if he had lost all his vitality. Was his heart dead? Yiqing Luo's slender brows knitted even tighter. She took a look at Mo Yuing. Seeing Mo Yuing still standing at the same spot, pressing her chest, not knowing what she was thinking, not moving at all. Like a puppet. Yiqing Luo sighed. Others didn't know what Mo Ying's situation was. As a brother, how could she not know that Mo Ying had fallen into her own world at this moment? Looking at Xiao Yinyan's lonely and dejected back view, Yi Qing Luo finally called out, "Yinyan, wait." The moment she opened her mouth, Xiao Yinyan stopped in his tracks. Even Mo Ying, who had fallen into her own world, also raised her head. Tilting her head slightly, she stared at Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo walked directly to Mo Ying's side and held her hand. She sighed and said, "I don't know if you've mistaken me for someone else, or if you've misunderstood something. Ever since I met the shadow, she has been like this. There's no such thing as playing dumb, or puppet, that you think she is." Xiao Yinyan's back stiffened. Following that, he turned around abruptly as his dark pupils stared deadly at Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo didn't evade as her eyes congealed and seriously met his gaze. After a long while, Xiao Yinyan's eyes gradually dimmed. His thin lips moved, and his voice was a little hoarse. "She. Why is she like this? I don't know." Yi Qing Luo shook her head. "Ever since I met her, she has been like this." Xiao Yinyan's gaze slowly shifted back to Mo Ying. He looked at Mo Ying's expressionless face. Those empty, soulless eyes. And the stiff and completely unnatural way he tilted his head. His heart was in a mess, to tell the truth, when Yi Qing Luo started to explain. His heart had already started to believe a little. From the moment he met Mo Ying, he had sensed her strangeness and unnaturalness. But, the hatred and resentment he had towards her made him neglect all these. The current Mo Ying. But the her in his memory was indeed very different. The atmosphere gradually turned heavy. No one opened their mouths. After a long while. Chapter 38. Everyone had more or less injuries on them. If they stayed any longer, their lives might be in danger. Yi Qing Luo took a deep look at Xiao Yinyan and held Mo Ying's little hand as she returned to Mo Xian's side. The group of them were just about to leave. A scribe hurried over and whispered something in the ear of the scribe. The historian's face sunk instantly. He raised his hand and stopped the group of people who were about to leave. "Miss Yi, the person you mentioned earlier. The son of the mastermind behind the secluded palace, we didn't see him." The historian asked solemnly, "Think carefully, have you remembered the wrong direction?" When Pei Sheng heard this, he became unhappy. The last array, it was because that person called Lord Yu used his blood to activate the array, causing the auction to become like this. There are so many pairs of eyes watching him being sucked dry, how could we remember the wrong direction? The historian's stern gaze looked at Pei Sheng, "But, we indeed didn't find the person you mentioned. How could that be possible?" Pei Sheng wanted to say something, but Yi Qing Luo raised her hand, blocking his words. Yi Qing Luo frowned as she looked at the historian with a grave expression. "You said you didn't find Lord Yu's corpse earlier when the array was broken." Because of her profound grade breakthrough, as well as seeing her old friend, she didn't pay much attention to Lord Yu. Lord Yu's corpse disappeared? Or perhaps Lord Yu actually wasn't dead? Yi Qing Luo's eyes turned cold as she suppressed her voice. If Lord Yu has disappeared, someone must have saved him. His injuries are too serious, he definitely can't leave alone. When the historian heard that, he took a look at the historian behind him, Chase. Yi Qing Luo completely left the matters of the auction to the historians to investigate and settle. She followed Jun Qingwu and originally wanted to return to the Treasures Exchange Hall to stay. But following that, Qiao family's patriarch rushed over and politely welcomed the group of people to Qiao family's residence. Yi Qing Luo looked at Qiao family's patriarch Qiao, whose head was lowered and his silver hair covered half of his face, but she didn't reject patriarch Qiao's good intentions. She was also very curious. What was going on between Xiao Yinyan and Mo Ying? the group of people arrived at the Xiao family mansion. Patriarch Xiao arranged a good guest room for them and said, "Have a good rest, everyone." Then, he left the room sensibly. The great battle in the auction. The people outside didn't know. But looking at the auction that had been reduced to ruins, and at least 2/3 of the elite profound practitioners had died, he knew how dangerous the battle was. At this moment, letting them rest was the best choice. Patriarch Xiao had obviously treated Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian as a married couple as he arranged a room for them. After the two of them walked into the guest room, they smelled a faint medicinal fragrance in the air. On the wooden table in the room, there were all kinds of medicine. Moreover, the medicine was of the highest quality. Some were used to treat external injuries, some were used to treat internal injuries, and some were used to replenish physical strength. This Patriarch Xiao has indeed arranged it appropriately. Yiqing Luo picked up a bottle of medicine and shook it in her fingertips. Behind him, however, was a scalding hot body. The man's low and hoarse voice floated down from above, "These are not important, the important thing is. Lil Luo should fulfill his promise." The man lowered his head slightly. His chin rested on the young lady's fair neck. Warm air sprayed out, making Yiqing Luo's neck to emerge with little goosebumps. Chapter 38-39. Yiqing Luo placed one hand on the back of the man's hand and gently pulled it apart. With the space to move, Yiqing Luo turned around in his arms and faced the man. She raised her head and met with the man's dark obsidian eyes. Deep in his eyes, there was a hint of affection. Just a glance. Yiqing Luo felt her legs go soft. This man's charm, it really made her unable to control herself at all times. Yiqing Luo's curly long eyelashes fluttered as she suppressed the surging, evil thoughts towards Dmo Xian in her heart. Her tender lips curled into a shallow arc as she smiled sweetly at him. Dmo Xian's pupils reflected the young lady's face, which was as beautiful as a flower. His eyes dimmed again. Immediately he exerted force and brought her delicate body into his arms. Then his feet moved. He pressed the young lady's butt against the wooden table. And he lowered his body, one hand hooked Yiqing Luo's waist, the other hand supported on the table. The distance between the two was very close. His breath sprayed, his magnetic and gentle voice was like a soul-stirring tune, very pleasant to listen to. "Looks like you have already thought of how to atone for your sins?" Yiqing Luo looked at the handsome face in front of her, that pair of shimmering peach blossom eyes, slightly met, like a whirlpool, even the soul seemed to be sucked in, sinking into it. Previously, after breaking the auction's array, she did say personally that she wanted to atone for her rash actions which made him worried. She didn't deny this point. So, the young lady smiled faintly as she raised her head, her hands automatically circled around the man's neck, smiling exceptionally sweetly. "So, my dear Xian, are you ready to enjoy my atonement?" Her two hands circled around the man. Almost all the strength of her upper body hung on the man's body. The man's body slightly leaned forward. A few strands of black hair fell, falling on Yiqing Luo's face. That peerless, breathtakingly handsome face came closer by a few degrees. And because of this, Yiqing Luo could clearly see, after she finished that sentence, Dmo Xian's pair of shimmering eyes slightly contracted. Yiqing Luo smiled. There was a hint of velvet in his eyes. The corners of her eyes arched upwards, becoming increasingly flirtatious. Yiqing Luo raised her hand slightly and pressed it on Dmo Xian's chest. It was tight and pushed with a little force. She pushed his body a distance away from her. She slid her hands down to the man's shoulders. When doing these movements, her eyes met his from the beginning to the end. Her smile widened. His feet moved. In an instant, the two of them had moved to the side of the bed in the inner room. Dmo Xian shot a glance at the bed behind him and the smile on his thin lips deepened. Lil Luo, is really sincere this time. In order to redeem himself as soon as possible, he even used the secret teleportation technique. Yiqing Luo only laughed. Her long and narrow eyes were overflowing with light, which made her even more enchanting and flirtatious. Dmo Xian's vision fell onto the young lady's fair skin, as smooth as silk, as his gaze turned darker and his voice became hoarse. If those people outside knew that you used the secret teleportation technique in this way, I'm afraid they would shout that it's a waste of God's gift. The secret teleportation technique is mine, how I want to use it, what has it got to do with them? Yiqing Luo's brows rose, as she suddenly exerted force, pressing the man onto the bed. Her silky black hair was scattered on the bed. After the black hair scattered. Chapter 38-40. After Dmo Xian fell, Yiqing Luo's hand was pressed on his chest. She leaned down and gave a mischievous and complacent smile, just like, "You're my man, how I want to sleep with you is my business." The young lady's words were like a feather, scratching Dmo Xian's heart. His eyes were overflowing with joy. His gaze towards Yiqing Luo was even more tender. He was smiling. His smile was magnificent. Yiqing Luo felt that she was about to drown in the man's pampering eyes. She hurriedly retracted her gaze and adjusted her emotions. This man belonged to her. How she wanted to sleep, whenever she wanted to sleep, she could. He, this person, belonged to her. So, don't wallow in his beauty. Anyway, he belonged to her. Yiqing Luo brainwashed herself in her heart. Just in case she really couldn't control herself and directly pounced on Dmo Xian. She stretched out her hand and tugged at Dmo Xian's belt. The man quickly grasped her hand with his large, broad palm. Yiqing Luo raised her head and looked at him. Dmo Xian's gaze was deep as he held her palm, giving off a scorching heat. Lil Luo, is so proactive, it makes me very surprised. There's someone more proactive at the back. Let go, lie down and enjoy obediently. Yiqing Luo swung her hand, indicating him to let go. The man didn't let go. Yiqing Luo simply used the other hand to tug at the man's belt again. Dmo Xian's eyes flashed past a sliver of helplessness. That gaze, which was mixed with adoration, fixed on the young lady for a few breaths. Eventually he let go of the hand which was holding her. He allowed the young lady to take two-pronged actions, touching him from top to bottom. The man's robe looked simple, but in fact it was very complicated. There were a lot of buckles inside. The young lady was tugging, and as she lost her patience, she directly pulled open the man's collar. With this tug, the buckles immediately fell off. The man's skin and that smooth muscle lines were magnified in Yiqing Luo's eyes. But what attracted Yiqing Luo's gaze was not the man's strong and seductive body, but on the man's shoulder. That patch of greenish-black. And there was a trace of 5 fingers. It was as if it was deeply embedded in his flesh. Yiqing Luo's pupils contracted as she leaned closer to him. She lifted her soft fingers and placed them on the greenish-black palm print. Her throat was a little dry. "Does it hurt?" "It doesn't hurt." Dmo Xian smiled as he shook his head, as he raised his hand and caught her fingers, covering her little hand in his wide and thick palm. He held her hand, brought it to his lips, and kissed it gently. "This injury is nothing. What I'm looking forward to is, you taking the initiative to atone for your sins." Yiqing Luo's eyelashes fluttered as her gaze was still fixated on the greenish-black finger mark on his shoulder. The shy expression on her face was different from before. Instead, there was a faint look of worry. Dmo Xian was about to open his mouth. The little hand that was held in his palm suddenly retracted. Then, he saw the girl jump down from the bed and rush into the outer hall. "Lil Luo, Dmo Xian was just about to get up. The girl's figure hurriedly rushed over. In her hands, there were a lot of medicine bottles. She placed the medicine bottles by Dmo Xian's side, and then pressed him down on the bed. Lil Luo, Dmo Xian took a look at those medicines and looked at Yiqing Luo's preparation actions, and knew what she was planning. Yiqing Luo raised her eyelids and took a look at him. Don't you want me to take the initiative to atone for my sins? Then lie down properly. Chapter 38-41. But the atonement I promised you is to apply the medicine for you personally. Yiqing Luo replied decisively, her brows arched. Do you feel that I'm very sincere? Do you feel extremely touched? Dmo Xian's thin lips curled up into an arc, which made him look noble and elegant. You know very well what I want. He continued to stare at her. His gaze was burning, the meaning was clear. Yiqing Luo suddenly pressed her body towards his direction. Dmo Xian's hand which was holding her, loosened slightly. The young lady had already pushed his hand down, pressing it on the bed. Following that, a warm and soft fingertip pressed on the greenish-black palm print on his shoulder. The cold medicinal powder was sprinkled down. Dmo Xian's shoulder trembled slightly. He lifted his eyes and saw the young lady's flawless face at a close distance. That thick and long eyelashes projected down her eyelids, but it still couldn't cover the young lady's sparkling eyes. He didn't move. He allowed the young lady to apply the medicine for him. Yiqing Luo's actions were very fast. She bandaged Dmo Xian in a few moments. She had just put down the bandage in her hand. Her wrist was held by Dmo Xian. She looked towards Dmo Xian. Dmo Xian smiled. Bandage done, then. What's next? Yiqing Luo looked at the big palm which held her wrist, and then looked at his shoulder. There was no shyness on her face, instead there was some mischievousness. Looking at her expression, Dmo Xian vaguely sensed that something was wrong. He heard the young lady said with a smile, looks like Xian still understands me very well, knowing to take the initiative to request, then I won't stand on ceremony. Saying that, her hands had already landed on his open robe. Gently tugging. The originally loose robe was slid to the two sides. Yiqing Luo lifted both his arms, out of his sleeves. Dmo Xian's upper body was completely exposed. Every inch of lines, every inch of muscles, was reflected in Yiqing Luo's eyes. Yiqing Luo swept a glance up and down. After confirming that Dmo Xian's body only had that injury on his shoulder, she then felt relieved. Then she picked up Dmo Xian's robe and threw it on his body, covering up that part of his muscular body which was tempting her to commit. Dmo Xian propped himself up and wrapped an arm around her waist. His chest, which was only separated by a piece of robe, was very close to her delicate body. That's it? He lifted his lower lip, and his voice was filled with laughter. Feeling the heat coming from the man, Yiqing Luo wanted to struggle. Seems like I've stirred up some fire. When he saw the person in his arms, his body stiffened. Dmo Xian couldn't help but curled his lips upwards as his smile deepened. The little fellow was so mischievous. She even dared to tease him. If he didn't teach her a lesson, perhaps the little fellow would have to play the same trick again in the future. Play once, this is called fun. If he played it more often. He did not think that he could maintain his self-control in front of her. Thinking like this, the man's eyes darkened. He suddenly flipped over. Yiqing Luo only felt that the world was spinning and her back was pressed against the soft mattress. And above, the man's warm breath was spraying down. Her and Dmo Xian's position had been switched. She blinked her eyes as a layer of crimson finally surfaced on her cheeks. Her little hands lifted up and pressed against the man's chest. But because of Dmo Xian's sudden action, the robe that covered his body had long fallen to the side. Yiqing Luo's hand fell on the man's firm skin. The strong and firm touch brought with it a scalding heat. Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but withdrew her hand. *****. Chapter 3842. This posture was very dangerous. The heat from the man's body said it all. Yi Qing Luo tried her best to show an innocent look as she blinked her eyes. She only cared about flirting with men. But she had forgotten that this man in front of her, on the surface, looked like a large puppy. But at some point, he would transform into a wolf dog. The moment he touched her, something happened. Dmo Xian's eyes, which were as deep as a serene lake, looked deeply into Yi Qing Luo's eyes. Looking at Yi Qing Luo's widened and innocent expression, the corners of his mouth rose unconsciously. His body leaned down a little more. The scorching breath drew closer to the young girl. It was so close that the girl's pupils dilated slightly. Luo, has it been too long since I've used my actions to tell you not to provoke him easily?" He chuckled softly. His voice was a little hoarse, and it was very pleasant to hear. His faint magnetism tugged at her heartstrings. Yi Qing Luo felt that her heart was almost out of control. Following the man's large palm, he followed the lines of her delicate body, moving up bit by bit. Yi Qing Luo's body tensed up even more. The place where his large palm brushed, it trembled slightly. It was like a stream of fire igniting her body and mind. His kiss fell on her. Yi Qing Luo's eyelashes fluttered as she closed her eyes. But, he closed his eyes and remained silent for a long time. There was no man's warm and soft touch on her lips. On the contrary, the ball of warmth on her body also turned over and landed next to her. Yi Qing Luo was stunned and slightly dazed. The eyes moved and opened. Dmo Xian's eyes were filled with smiles and the corners of his lips were curled into a teasing arc. That ridiculing smile made Yi Qing Luo's cheeks flushed red. You. Was she being flirted with? With a hook of his long arm, he pulled her into his embrace. He laughed softly. "I know you're tired. Have a good rest." After a few consecutive battles, in a moment of desperation, he unleashed a power that exceeded what his body could withstand. Then, he broke through again. Anyone would feel physically and mentally exhausted. How could Dmo Xian possibly request Yi Qing Luo to satisfy him at this moment? No, he was simply hugging her. They hugged each other and slept together. His heart was already satisfied. Feel the man's scorching love, and for her concern. Yi Qing Luo's brows were tainted with a gentle glow. She buried her head in his chest and put one hand on his waist. Just as he closed his eyes, his heart filled with happiness. Dmo Xian's magnetic and mellow voice rang in her ears, "When I'm well rested, I'll be waiting for your atonement." Yi Qing Luo, feeling the girl in his arms stiffen, he smiled and said, "Don't forget what I said before. If you start a fire, you have to be responsible for extinguishing it." Yi Qing Luo, could this joke ever get over it? His body and mind were indeed exhausted. This rest. He rested until the next morning. By the time Yi Qing Luo opened her eyes, the man was no longer by her side. He reached out to touch the side of his body. It was cold, which meant that he had been awake for a long time. She sat up straight and saw the bandage hanging on the side. It seemed that Dmo Xian had changed the medicine himself. She rubbed her face. Only by Dmo Xian's side. She slept like a log. She didn't even notice that Dmo Xian had woken up and left. Yi Qing Luo got up and changed into a new set of clothes from the profound phoenix ring. After washing up, she walked out of the room. The room that Patriarch Xiao had arranged for her and Dmo Xian was the quietest. When she walked out of the courtyard. Chapter 3843. Kitty Li smelled Yi Qing Luo's scent and was the first to jump up and pounce towards her. "Sister." Yi Qing Luo hugged her. The few of them also looked towards Yi Qing Luo. Have you recovered? Jun Qingwu looked at Yi Qing Luo from head to toe. Yi Qing Luo nodded. After a nap, my body and mind are relaxed. TSK. That's because you don't know what the Overlord did for you after you fell asleep. Zhou Mo's sloppy voice was heard. What did this mean? Zhou Mo rubbed his chin and gave a playful smile. Your Overlord, after you fell asleep, gave you a full body check. His voice dragged on with a hint of mockery. Jun Qingwu directly threw the teacup in her hand towards Zhou Mo. Zhou Mo raised his palm and split the teacup open. Don't say it's so dirty. Jun Qingwu shot a glance at him and then looked at Yi Qing Luo as she explained, the Overlord said that you had expended too much energy in the array. Even if you managed to grab hold of the opportunity to break through, the energy after the breakthrough had enriched your body and mind, but the energy that erupted earlier had still affected your body. She paused and continued, so after you fell asleep, the Overlord used some herbs to make incense to help you relieve the fatigue and replenish the energy in your body. Yi Qing Luo was stunned. Wasn't he injured? No wonder, after she woke up. She felt that her body and mind were comfortable and light like a swallow. Initially she thought that this was the reaction after a night's rest after the breakthrough. She didn't expect. It was Xian he. Didn't he need to rest at all? The Overlord knows his limits, even if it's for you, he won't tire himself out. Jun Qingwu comforted her. Then where did he go now? Yi Qing Luo lowered her eyes. That fool, silently waiting for her to fall asleep, for the sake of her body. But completely disregarding herself. He was injured and didn't even know how to rest properly. This man, when he started to pamper others, it made one's legs go soft. Kitty Lee snuggled into her arms and said, Overlord brother-in-law heard from Sister Zishi that there is a stalk of medicinal herb that is especially helpful to you at the West Cliff Mountain, so I followed her to pick it. Yi Qing Luo's lips suddenly pursed tightly. Di Zun knows his limits. Don't worry. Jun Qingwu saw Yi Qing Luo's expression change and immediately held her arm, bringing her to the stone bench. I am angry. Yi Qing Luo's eyes were slightly sunken, so sunken that it turned black. He's worried about me, I'll also be worried about him, I'm still injured and still running around. She pursed her lips even tighter as she spoke. Then, he broke free from Jun Qingwu's grasp. No, I have to go to the Western Cliff Mountain to look for him. Di Zun has been gone for some time. Even if you go there now, you might not be able to find him. Jun Qingwu hurriedly hugged her. If you're angry, just wait for him to come back. Can't you just vent it on him? Yi Qing Luo halted her footsteps. Jun Qingwu's words made sense. The West Cliff Mountain was huge. She went in search. Perhaps Dmo Xian was already on his way back. Yi Qing Luo dispelled the idea of going to West Cliff Mountain and recalled what Kitty Lee said earlier. Earlier you said. Zishi? Is she awake? In the spirit-devouring array, Gu Zishi was affected by the array and had fallen into a coma. Yi Qing Luo guessed that she would probably wake up soon. Later on, the auction event happened. Hearing the news that Gu Zishi had already woken up, Yi Qing Luo heaved a sigh of relief. Chapter 38-44. Kitty Lee replied with an N and immediately pouted her lips as she mumbled, Sister has only been separated from Kitty for a month and already got to know so many friends. If Kitty Lee didn't find Sister in time, would Sister forget about Kitty Lee? The little girl's voice was filled with grievance. As though she was fighting for favor, her little head was raised up high to look at her. Yi Qing Luo rubbed Kitty Lee's furry little head as she laughed softly, I can forget anyone but Kitty Lee. My friends are Kitty Lee's friends. Kitty Lee's face finally revealed a smile after her fur was smoothed. She had just finished smoothing Kitty Lee's fur. Suddenly a little head came into her arms. In front of her was Mo Ying's tender figure and that adorable Lolita's expressionless face. Yiqing Luo was stunned. Mo Ying put her head under Yiqing Luo's palm as she spat out a word stiffly, touch. Alright, this was a fight for favor. Looking at the two kids in front of her, Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laugh. Then, he raised his hand and rubbed the heads of each of them. Mo Ying's stiff lips curled upwards. His smile was stiff and unnatural when compared to his expressionless face. Yiqing Luo pinched Mo Ying's face as her fingers landed on her raised lips. Shadow can smile more. Mo Ying tilted her head as her dense long eyelashes blinked and nodded, N. Just as she was saying that, Yiqing Luo acutely felt a scorching gaze falling on her. She immediately looked over. She saw a slender figure standing at the entrance of the courtyard. Silver hair and black robe. The gentle breeze made the desolation on the man's body even more obvious. It was Xiao Yinyan. He was looking at her without blinking. No. More accurately, his attention was still on Mo Ying. Only occasionally, a glance. Which made Yiqing Luo couldn't help but pay attention to it. When she looked over, Xiao Yinyan also raised his eyes and met her gaze. Yiqing Luo understood. She whispered something to Mo Ying and Kitty Li. Then she walked towards Xiao Yinyan. Do you have time? I want to talk to you. Xiao Yinyan looked at her, his eyes dark and heavy. Yiqing Luo understood his meaning as she nodded her head. Following closely behind him, the two of them walked out of the courtyard. Xiao Yinyan walked in front. His slender figure looked extremely lonely from the back. It was as if some darkness had covered his radiance. His entire person was very dispirited. Looking at his back view, Yiqing Luo sighed and took the initiative to open her mouth. You're looking for me, to ask about the matters regarding Shadow, right? Xiao Yinyan's footsteps suddenly halted. Yiqing Luo was very close. It could be seen that his body under the black robe had tensed up. As expected, it was because of Mo Ying. Mentioning Mo Ying, his reaction was huge. Mo Ying, was she really like this from the beginning? He didn't turn around, but from his voice, one could tell how confused and apprehensive he was. Yiqing Luo looked at his back view for a long time and didn't reply. Then she walked slowly to him, looked into his eyes and said word by word, whether it's true or not, from the moment you came to ask me, you already have the answer in your heart, isn't it? Xiao Yinyan's pupils contracted slightly. Chapter 38-45. Xiao Yinyan's eyes flashed past a gloomy glint. He clenched his fists as his expression turned cold. Looking at his expression, Yiqing Luo raised her brows slightly as she pursed her lips slightly, revealing a hint of coldness. You should be able to tell that Shadow's current condition is not that of a normal person. Indeed. From the first time she met Mo Ying, Yiqing Luo felt strange. But she heard from Long Yunzhan and the rest that Mo Ying had always been like this. So she dispelled her intention to probe further. But now that she saw Xiao Yinyan, and thinking back to what Xiao Yinyan had said earlier, Xiao Yinyan felt that Mo Ying's current look was an act. Which meant, he had met Mo Ying, and it was the other side of Mo Ying. Yiqing Luo lowered her eyelids slightly. That girl who looked like a little Lolita had an expressionless face. Especially those big, round eyes. They were so beautiful, but they were empty and devoid of life. Every word and action, every action. They were like puppets that were being manipulated by strings. If it was the previous Mo Ying, she wasn't like this, which meant that there must be a reason why Mo Ying became like this. Xiao Yinyan's breathing became hurried. He raised his head abruptly as his eyes stared at Yiqing Luo. That gaze seemed to be urging her to continue speaking. Yiqing Luo was extremely curious about what had happened between Xiao Yinyan and Mo Yuing. Moreover, she could tell Xiao Yinyan had deep feelings for Mo Yuing. She was basically certain. The woman in Xiao Yinyan's heart that Gue Wu mentioned earlier was undoubtedly Mo Yuing. Yiqing Luo thought about it and told Xiao Yinyan about the strange parts. During the world-destroying battle in the Nirvana realm, the secluded palace had targeted Mo Yuying's soul. From the godless island, they had obtained a pitch-black dagger that targeted Mo Yuing. After that, the period when Mo Yuing was unconscious, her face, and her eyes, all had more of a human radiance. At that time, Mo Yuing really looked like a normal person. But after that, she reverted back to that stiff puppet look. After Yiqing Luo finished speaking about these things, the more Xiao Yinyan listened, the deeper his frown became. In the end, his eyes were burning. Seeing Xiao Yinyan's expression, Yiqing Luo was almost certain. No matter what happened between Xiao Yinyan and Mo Yuing in the past, it didn't matter how angry Xiao Yinyan was when he saw Mo Yuing. In the end, he still had deep feelings for Mo Yuing. No matter how Xiao Yinyan tried to refute it, it was the truth. Speaking of this, she was also very curious about something. Since you've always had Mo Yuing in your heart, then why, when you first met me, your attitude towards me was so? Yiqing Luo deliberated over her words and finally used 2 words to describe it: so ambiguous? It was indeed very ambiguous. Xiao Yinyan's attitude towards her. No matter who came to see it, they would all misunderstand, right? When she went to the Qiao mansion, Patriarch Qiao's eyes were shining as he looked at her. Clearly, she had misunderstood Xiao Yinyan's attitude towards her. Not to mention others. Even she had her doubts several times. If it wasn't for the fact that she felt that Xiao Yinyan's attention towards her didn't seem to be the kind of love between a man and a woman. She wanted to have an open and honest talk with Xiao Yinyan, while she was silently cursing in her heart. Chapter 38-46. Don't tell me. It's really because of what Gue Wu said? After Yiqing Luo finished her words, she clicked her tongue as her face was filled with a teasing smile. So the reason why you treated me so well right from the start was because Teacher Gue Yu requested you to take care of me. Xiao Yinyan's expression froze. Not only his face, even the muscles on his body froze up. Following that, his flustered gaze evaded Yiqing Luo's line of sight as he lifted his leg and walked forward. That flustered look made him look like he had a guilty conscience. Yiqing Luo looked at his hurried back view as she couldn't help but laugh out loud. It seemed that her guess was not far from the truth. Xiao Yinyan took such good care of her. It was because of Gue Yu's advance greeting. This also explained why Patriarch Qiao was so passionate when he saw her. It must be Gue Yu, that old urchin, who intentionally said something to make Patriarch Qiao misunderstand, causing Patriarch Qiao to mistakenly think that she would become Qiao family's future daughter-in-law. Amen. Most importantly, Gue Yu seemed to have used Mo Yuying's name to greet Xiao Yinyan. That meant to say, Xiao Yinyan had always known that Mo Yuing was in Nirvana realm. He had been secretly paying attention to Mo Yuing. Then why? How could he not know about the changes in Mo Yuing? What had happened to Mo Yuing, which caused her to become like this? These questions looked like she could only ask Teacher Gue Yu after they met before she could find out. After Xiao Yinyan left, Yiqing Luo returned to the courtyard. Zhou Mo's brows rose as he asked smilingly, "That lad looked for you, is it to ask about Shadow?" Yiqing Luo nodded as her gaze fell onto Shadow. Mo Yuing tilted her head as she blinked. "Me?" Yiqing Luo waved at her. Mo Yuing immediately ran into Yiqing Luo's arms as she raised her exquisite and adorable face as she looked at her. Yiqing Luo touched her head. "Shadow doesn't remember that man at all?" Xiao Yinyan. Mo Yuing mumbled this name, why should I remember him? Yi Qing Luo saw that she had even remembered Xiao Yinyan's name and raised her slender brows as she asked with a smile, looks like Shadow's impression of Yin Yan is rather deep. Because he always stares at me with a very annoying gaze. Mo Ying's answer was very straightforward. Looking at Mo Ying's expressionless face, Yi Qing Luo rejoiced that she had scared Xiao Yinyan away earlier. Otherwise, how painful would it be for him to hear this sentence? Shadow, let me ask you a question. Yi Qing Luo placed both her hands on Mo Ying's shoulders and slightly bent down to meet her gaze. Mo Ying blinked her eyes. Her empty and lifeless eyes were extremely black. In your memory, have you lost a certain period of memory? Yi Qing Luo asked seriously. Mo Ying blinked her empty eyes again. Do you think that I have forgotten about Xiao Yinyan? Yi Qing Luo nodded calmly, yes, so, you really don't remember him, right? I don't have his memory. Mo Ying shook her head stiffly. As for whether or not I lost my memory, I don't know. You don't know? This sentence made Yi Qing Luo extremely surprised. Mo Ying replied, my memory is very chaotic and I can't remember if I have lost any memory. But I really don't know Xiao Yinyan. How could a normal person's memory be chaotic? Chapter 38-47. Looks like, Mo Ying would become a puppet without a soul. There had to be a reason. Moreover, this reason might be related to Mo Ying's chaotic memories. If you want to clarify your relationship with Yin Yan, after you return to Nirvana Realm, you can look for Teacher Gue Yu and ask him, he should know something. Yi Qing Luo left the choice to herself. Mo Ying didn't reply and just stared at him with her lifeless eyes. No one knew what she was thinking. At this moment, Xiao family's housekeeper came over to invite Yi Qing Luo and the rest to head to the main hall for their meal. This was the Xiao family's territory. The news of her waking up and Xiao Yinyan walking out of the courtyard would definitely reach Patriarch Xiao's ears very quickly. Family head Xiao's actions were quite fast. Yi Qing Luo thought about it and accepted the invitation. If she were to wait for Dmo Xian to return, her imagination would run wild and she would be restless. Go to the main hall. It's more lively there, and it can also divert some attention. Anyway, when Dmo Xian returned, they could just grab anyone to ask and they would know where he was. The group followed the butler to the main hall of the Qiao family. Indeed, as Yi Qing Luo had expected. A small banquet was set up in the main hall of the Qiao family. The long tables on both sides were filled with guests. Yi Qing Luo gauged with her eyes. There were about 40 of them. When he saw Yi Qing Luo and her entourage walking over, those people immediately stood up and respectfully cupped their hands towards them with smiles on their faces. Madam D. Madam D. Madam D. Various voices, affectionately called out to Yi Qing Luo. The smile on his face, the respect in his tone. There was a hint of flattery that was hard to detect. Patriarch Xiao immediately went forward to welcome them. Lady Yi, Lady D, come, come, this way please, this way please. Yi Qing Luo looked around. In the main seat of the main hall was a rectangular table. He counted the seats. It just so happened to be their position. Yi Qing Luo didn't stand on ceremony with them as she walked directly to the main seat and sat down. TSK. What kind of formation is this? Zhou Mo muttered softly. Yi Qing Luo shot a glance at Zhou Mo as her lips curled into a faint smile. These people are from various large powerhouses in the Earth domain. He had just looked around. There were many familiar faces present. They were all profound practitioners who had survived the auction. Ever since Patriarch Xiao sent the butler to invite them. Yi Qing Luo could roughly guess that the purpose of the invitation was probably to discuss about the auction. However, inviting so many people was beyond her expectations. "Imperial Madam, please forgive me for taking the liberty to let these friends in." Xiao family head's temper had changed, and he seemed to be very calm. But the expression he shot towards Yiqing Luo had betrayed his inner thoughts. Patriarch Xiao stared at her with a fiery gaze. From time to time, he would glance at his son, who was sitting quietly beside him. Clearly, he had not given up on the idea of pairing her up with Xiao Yinyan. Yiqing Luo glanced at Mo Yuing from the corner of her eyes and then smiled as she shook her head. "This is the Qiao residence. Whoever the Qiao family wants to receive is the Qiao family's right." Patriarch Qiao's smile froze. The smiles on the faces of the profound practitioners from the various great forces also froze. Since they came to the Qiao residence, their intentions were already very clear. Was Yiqing Luo pretending not to understand, or did she really not understand? The atmosphere in the main hall was tense. Chapter 38-48. Qiao family's patriarch broke the deadlock. Various powerhouses' cultivators naturally wouldn't continue to put on a stiff expression and make the atmosphere so stiff. One by one, they raised their wine cups and respectfully toasted towards Yiqing Luo's direction as they expressed their gratitude. To these cultivators, Yiqing Luo wasn't disgusted, but they were definitely not the same kind of people. But as the saying goes, don't slap a smiling face. These powerful cultivators from various powerhouses who were usually high up on the top were now putting on a smiling face to a junior like her. Yiqing Luo wouldn't really rub her nose in front of them as her performance was too cold. To tell the truth, Yiqing Luo herself was very clear. The main reason why these people were so polite to her was not because she had broken the auction's array, allowing everyone to survive, but because of Dmo Xian. She clearly saw that when she and the group of people entered the main hall, quite a number of gazes were wandering around her, searching for him. Yiqing Luo understood everyone's thoughts. After all, the strong were revered. Everyone respected Dmo Xian, and she was rather proud. Her lips curled slightly, her smile was distant, not easy to get close to, but she wasn't rude. "There's no need to thank me. The reason why I worked so hard is not just because of you." She stood up and downed the wine in her cup in one gulp as she continued, "If the array is not broken, all of us will die in the array, so I'm doing it for myself." Although that's the case, but Imperial Madam fought with the Palace of Darkness and almost lost her life. She even used her own blood to test the array and broke the array. These are all indisputable facts. One of the powerhouses who was seated in front cupped his fists and said, "Everything that Imperial Madam has done to break the array, we will remember it in our hearts and express our deep gratitude." Another cultivator continued. Immediately, there were other cultivators who started to praise her. The main hall instantly became noisy. Yiqing Luo immediately raised her hand to stop everyone's bootlicking. Her smile remained unchanged and the expression on her face didn't change at all. "Thank you for your kindness. During the auction, I actually made it very clear that the reason why I risked my life was because I didn't want Palace of Darkness's evil plan to succeed. If you really want to thank me, then use your power to find the hidden forces of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. Start this war with the Palace of Gloomy Darkness and win. That's enough." Yiqing Luo's words made everyone's voices of thanks to stop abruptly. They all looked at each other. Regarding what the Abyss Palace had done, many forces had already put the Abyss Palace on their blacklist. After all, the other party was bullying him. If they didn't take some action, they would definitely be killed. Wouldn't the other party think that they were easy to bully? This point, even if Yiqing Luo didn't mention it, they would also investigate the power of the Palace of Darkness. Their losses this time could be said to be half of the wings of the entire land. How could they let go of the Netherworld Palace? From the burning rage in everyone's eyes, Yiqing Luo could tell what they were thinking. If the people of the land domain were willing to investigate the Palace of Darkness, no matter how deep the Palace of Gloomy Darkness hid, he would eventually reveal his fox tail. Currently, Yiqing Luo wasn't worried that the secluded Darkness Palace would take advantage of the fact that the Earth Realm's vitality was severely damaged to swallow the Earth Realm. The commotion caused by the auction was too big. This had already attracted the attention of the Historian of Balance. Chapter 38-49. If Secluded Palace were to take action now, it would definitely attract the attention of the higher realms people. By then, whatever plans Secluded Palace wanted to carry out, would definitely be difficult. What Imperial Madam said is right. Our three cities' common enemy is Secluded Palace. Our forces have suffered heavy losses because of Secluded Palace, so we must take revenge for this. Imperial Madam, don't worry. Even if you don't mention it, we will not let Secluded Palace off. That's right. I am absolutely irreconcilable with Secluded Palace. Everyone clenched their fists, venting their anger and hatred towards Secluded Palace. Yiqing Luo didn't continue exchanging pleasantries with them and inciting them. Secluded Palace's method in the auction. They had completely lost the hearts of the people in the Earth domain. Even now, when Secluded Palace wanted to recruit people in the Earth domain, no one would go over. Those who joined Secluded Palace in the auction, each and every one of them, died much worse than the others. Those who joined, those who wanted to betray, turned into blood mist and had their souls scattered. Those who didn't want to betray, were directly killed by those monsters in Secluded Palace who couldn't differentiate between friend and foe. It was simply insane to the extreme. Whoever wanted to join Secluded Palace was simply looking for death. Yiqing Luo looked at everyone's infuriated looks as she slowly sat down. Her expression was still somewhat solemn. Suddenly, a fair and slender hand stretched out in front of her. Her jade-white fingers held a wine cup. The wine was swaying in the cup. Jun Qingwu's cold voice was heard by her ear, "Have a drink?" Yiqing Luo glanced sideways and met Jun Qingwu's cold expression. She smiled as she poured herself a full cup of wine, raised the wine cup and clinked it with hers. The two of them didn't say anything as they raised their heads at the same time and downed the wine in one gulp. When they put down the wine cup, Jun Qingwu propped her chin as her brows rose slightly as she looked at her indifferently. Why? Still thinking about Secluded Palace? Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased tightly. I don't understand, why did Secluded Palace take such a huge risk to take action during the auction? She paused slightly and suddenly thought of something as she turned her body sideways to look at Jun Qingwu. During this period of time, have you found out any news about the mastermind of Secluded Palace? Jun Qingwu's expression darkened when she mentioned this point. She shook her head. The Palace of Gloomy Darkness is very cunning. The real mastermind is hidden too well. Currently, the only information we know is that person is definitely someone with a high position in the Heaven Realm. Or, it might be related to the God Realm. Divine Realm? Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips slightly. In the Upper Realm. Is there really a God Realm? Although the three realms of the Heaven-Earth-God Realm were collectively known as the Upper Three Realms. But what Yiqing Luo heard were mostly from the Earth Realm and Heaven Realm. There were very, very few rumors about the God Realm. It was said that after the Divine Emperor passed away 10,000 years ago, the Divine World gradually disappeared from everyone's sight. Now, although there were still many legends in the Divine World, there were also people who said that Dmo Xian came from the Divine Realm. However, it was impossible to ascertain whether the God Realm still had true godlike existences. Chapter 38-50. The Palace Lord of the Nether Palace on the surface. In Yiqing Luo's mind, an image of a black-robed figure with a black cloak covering his entire face appeared. Towards that Palace Lord of the Nether Palace. Yiqing Luo's memory was still very deep. What made her most unforgettable was that palace lord's gaze towards her. Very strange. Very familiar. However, she was unable to recall where that sense of familiarity came from. Furthermore, that palace lord's actions made her puzzled and puzzled. Most importantly, she was sealed in the palace which was filled with evil qi by the real mastermind. It was also that palace lord who told Dmo Xian the correct location of the palace, which allowed Dmo Xian to find her in time. Who was the palace lord of the Nether Palace on the surface? Have you thought of any clues? Jun Qingwu saw Yiqing Luo's grave expression and that half-squinted eyes, reflecting a piercingly cold ray. Yiqing Luo regained her senses and met with Jun Qingwu's gaze which seemed to know everything. She was slightly stunned as she shook her head, nothing. Jun Qingwu only took a deep look at her and didn't continue to ask. Yiqing Luo's eyelids drooped as her eyes turned deep and her slightly cold voice was piercingly cold. Nether Palace. Sooner or later I will personally destroy it. The two of them were discussing in a low voice. Various powerhouses cultivators had already expressed their attitude. They had set a common goal: to deal with the Nether Palace. After that, under Patriarch Qiao's instructions, they started to eat and drink. Many powerhouses cultivators tried to find all sorts of topics to talk to Yiqing Luo. But Yiqing Luo's attitude was very calm. Alienated, but there was nothing wrong with it. She said that she was high and mighty, totally looking down on them. But Yiqing Luo's tone and attitude towards them was still considered polite. She said that she wanted to get to know them, to have more friends and more paths. But Yiqing Luo's attitude was extremely alienated, with no intention to continue to develop a future with them. This made everyone feel strange and at the same time unable to get on her good side. They were stuck here, neither up nor down, which was indeed uncomfortable. Just like this, it continued for about 2 incense sticks worth of time. Suddenly, a howl was heard from outside the main hall. Hey hey hey. Why are you dragging me? Who are you? What do you want? That howl was quite tragic. Then, the orderly voices of the Qiao family's guards could be heard. But it couldn't stop the howl from getting closer. Everyone in the main hall heard this voice. Patriarch Qiao stood up first and was about to rush out. Soon after, a black shadow was thrown into the main hall. Patriarch Qiao subconsciously raised his hand and slashed over. Yiqing Luo's eyes were sharp and when she saw that black shadow being thrown over, her eyes changed. The glower flame fan in her hands moved and a hurricane was formed, sweeping the black shadow towards her. Qiao family's head slashed the air and saw the direction where the black shadow turned. Just as he was about to ask Yiqing Luo, the black figure that was thrown and rolled on the ground a few times. Then, holding onto his waist, he climbed up while shouting, "Ouch!" He wore a green robe, and his hair was a little messy due to the torment. He raised his hand and rubbed his face that was hurt from the fall. His handsome face was very upright. The most eye-catching thing was that pair of dark golden eyes, sparkling with a brilliant luster which made one unable to shift their gaze away. "Pei, boss Pei?" After seeing that black shadow's face clearly, Patriarch Qiao was stunned. Chapter 38-51. What on earth was going on? Pei Xing rubbed his own face and was still drawing in cold air from the pain. As he touched his ears, he stood up and cried out to Yiqing Luo, "Ah Luo, save me. There's a crazy old man who kept dragging me to look for you, it hurts so much." Yiqing Luo noticed that his face and ears had turned red from the pinching. Before she could say a word. Immediately following that, a gush of horrifying aura gushed into the main hall's main door. The surrounding pressure instantly dropped to the lowest point. Many cultivators' expressions turned gloomy as they held onto their weapons alertly as their sharp eyes stared sharply at the main hall's main door. Could it be that the secluded palace had made a comeback? Thinking of this, everyone became even more alert. Even the aura on his body had become much more powerful. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she immediately stood up and crossed the long table, pulling Pei Sheng behind her as she straightened her back and looked towards the main door. Pei Sheng said. There was an old man looking for her. He specifically mentioned her name to look for her. Who could it be? The aura in the main hall surged even more ferociously. Wave after wave of airwaves. Yiqing Luo felt that the surrounding air seemed to have congealed. Just at this moment, a figure hurried over from the door and entered. Just in a blink of an eye. That figure had already appeared in the middle of the main hall. He stood face to face with Yiqing Luo. The distance between the two of them was not more than 10 steps. That was a white-haired old man dressed in brocade robes, but he had a dignified demeanor. His entire body was in flames. The minute he appeared, he gave everyone a huge sense of oppression. The profound practitioners of the various major forces immediately felt a great pressure bearing down on them. It was as if their bodies were being pressed to the ground by an invisible force. This kind of feeling. Yiqing Luo was also affected. Her slender brows creased as she met the old man's sharp and imposing eyes. Who are you? She opened her mouth and asked coldly. The old man's gaze was fixed on Yiqing Luo, as though he was inspecting some goods as he sized Yiqing Luo up. Following that, his brows creased tightly, as though he was despising her. Yiqing Luo. 1. Face. Stunned. Force. Who on earth was this old man? What was with that look of disdain? You are Yiqing Luo? The old man asked calmly. Yiqing Luo realized that this old man might not be from the earth domain. She didn't answer and just looked at him warily. The old man saw that Yiqing Luo was ignoring him. He stared fiercely at Pei Sheng as he shouted sternly, "The Yiqing Luo you mentioned, is it this woman?" Pei Sheng was hollered at and his entire body shrank behind Yiqing Luo. At the same time, he touched his ears. How can a man like you hide behind a woman's back? Our Huangfu clan doesn't have a man like you. When the old man saw Pei Sheng's actions, he couldn't help but frown and shout at him sternly. Yiqing Luo caught onto a crucial point. Huangfu clan? This old man, someone from the Huangfu clan? In other words, people from the Heaven Realm? This Huangfu family, wasn't it one of the Heaven Realm's 4 great families, Xiao Jin's family? Why would he come to the land? It seemed like the target was still looking for her. Yiqing Luo expressed that she was in a daze. You are from the Huangfu family? The old man glanced coldly at Yiqing Luo and shifted his gaze onto Pei Sheng, who was behind her. Stand upright and upright. Pei Sheng was so scared that he quivered. He immediately stood out from behind Yiqing Luo. And he even stood up straight. After he stood up, he then realized what he had done. Chapter 38-52. This old man. What did he mean by that? Not only Yiqing Luo was stunned. The surrounding cultivators from various powerhouses were all stunned as well. All of them stared at the old man in unison, guessing his intention for coming. In the old man's eyes, it seemed as though he couldn't see anyone else. After seeing Pei Sheng stand up straight, that solemn and heavy expression on his face eased up a little. But the gaze which he shot towards Pei Sheng was still that little bit of disdain and displeasure. But this disdain, as compared to the disdain which Yiqing Luo saw in the old man's eyes, was absolutely not the same kind of emotion. So, how much did this old man despise her? Just as she was thinking, that old man's vision shifted onto Yiqing Luo. Following that, his white brows creased as he raised his chin and opened his mouth. Yiqing Luo, I heard that. You're the one who saved this lad, and even activated this lad's concealed Huangfu bloodline. Yiqing Luo controlled herself, ignoring the old man's arrogant tone. From the old man's aura. If they were to fight, she might be at a disadvantage. Furthermore, what did that old man say earlier? Activated. Huangfu bloodline. Huangfu. Yiqing Luo suddenly recalled Xiao Jin's pair of golden eyes. Wait a minute. She recalled it. Huangfu family. Their unique point was, Huangfu family's people's eyes were all golden. Right. Golden. She finally recalled, when she saw Pei Sheng's outburst, his eyes flashed a dark golden glow, and where did that familiar feeling come from? Because previously, Xiao Jin's eyes had also turned golden. But the color of Pei Sheng's eyes was very different from Xiao Jin's golden color. It was also different from the usual color of Huangfu family's eyes. If she didn't remember wrongly, those Huangfu family's people, other than Xiao Jin who the Huangfu family had recognized as the successor, all the younger generation, only had one golden eye. One gold, one ink. But Pei Sheng's eye color. Not only was it that kind of dark golden color, but both eyes revealed a dark golden glow. But this old man in front of her said, Pei Sheng's Huangfu bloodline had been activated? What was going on? Looking at Yiqing Luo's puzzled expression, the displeasure and disdain on the old man's face became even more obvious. He walked towards Yiqing Luo in big strides, his footsteps were steady and his footsteps brought along the wind, his imposing manner was overbearing. As he approached, Yiqing Luo didn't evade. Instead, he frowned and met the old man's gaze. Then, he stared into the old man's eyes, searching for traces of gold. Facing Yiqing Luo's piercing gaze, the old man's brows furrowed even tighter, and he shouted sternly, "Little girl, I'm asking you a question." This voice was mixed with Xian energy. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but dig her buzzing ears. "I don't even know who you are, why should I answer a stranger's question?" The old man's face darkened. Apparently he had never met someone like Yiqing Luo who wasn't afraid of his prestige and was so rude to him. His eyes stared intently at Yiqing Luo. His sharp eyes occasionally flashed with a golden luster. Yiqing Luo caught it. Indeed, someone from the Huangfu family. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she shot a glance at Pei Sheng's direction, and continued to speak. "You specially came over from Heaven Realm, because you sensed Pei Sheng's Huangfu bloodline, and wanted to bring him back?" Chapter 38-53. As he spoke, he looked at the old man again, and, "Who on earth are you? The minute you saw me, you dragged me here and clamored to look for Ah Luo, what's going on?" Hearing Pei Sheng's words, the old man frowned. "You don't even know your own identity?" "Me?" Pei Sheng was even more confused. "What identity? What are you guys talking about?" The old man's face turned even darker. Yiqing Luo raised her hand and stopped Pei Sheng from asking any further questions as she directly opened her mouth. "Ah Sheng had grown up in the Earth Realm since young and his parents are from the Earth Realm. If he's really from the Huangfu family, then you shouldn't be asking him but your Huangfu family yourself. Why on earth did you allow Ah Sheng to wander around in the Earth Realm?" Being criticized by a junior, the old man couldn't keep his face. His face sunk as he shouted angrily, "I will investigate this matter clearly. I don't need you to point fingers. So, you want to bring Ah Sheng to the Heaven Realm?" Yiqing Luo asked. Yiqing Luo and the old man's exchange. His words entered the ears of all the profound practitioners of the major forces. That was to set off a huge wave. Heaven Realm? This master, is he from the Heaven Realm? Didn't you hear, the Imperial Madam said. Huangfu family. Huangfu family? One of the 4 heavenly families in the Heaven Realm? Other than the Huangfu family, which is one of the 4 heavenly families, is there a second Huangfu family? Why would the Huangfu family from the heaven realm come to the earth realm? And those cultivators in Without Embroiling City heard that Yiqing Luo wanted to ask about the Huangfu family and bring Pei Sheng to the heaven realm. They were even more shocked. What was the relationship between Pei Sheng and the Huangfu family? Why did it sound like Pei Sheng was from the Huangfu family? This piece of heavy news, one after another, made everyone dumbfounded. The surrounding people's discussion made Pei Sheng nervous. His eyeballs rolled, looking at the old man and Yiqing Luo from time to time. He had a stomach full of questions to ask. But looking at the atmosphere between the old man and Yiqing Luo, he swallowed back the words that were on the tip of his tongue. Young lady, in that case, this young lad is indeed you, and you've stimulated his Huangfu blood meridians? Old man imitated Yiqing Luo's tone, as he countered with a question. Yiqing Luo was just about to reply. Then, he threw another sentence that almost made her explode. Since you've activated this kid's Huangfu bloodline, I'll make the decision. From now on, you'll be this kid's wife. When you return to the Huangfu clan, the two of you will get married. These words shocked the profound practitioners of the various great powers so much that they almost jumped up. Grandpa, do you know what you are saying? Do you know who the girl opposite you is? If Lord Dizun were to hear this, not to mention the Huangfu clan, even the entire heaven realm would be turned upside down by Dizun. However, the old man didn't have the ability to read minds, so he naturally didn't know what everyone was thinking. That's it. Now, the two of you will follow me to the celestial realm. The old man looked as if it was a matter of course. Yiqing Luo and Pei Sheng looked at each other in dismay. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched a few times. Just as she was about to open her mouth to clarify things with the old man, she heard a few anxious voices coming from outside the main hall. Grandpa. Grandpa. Don't mess around. Immediately following that, she saw 3 figures, flying over. In a blink of an eye, they scurried to the old man's side. Chapter 38-54. The woman ran to the old man's side. Grandpa, this won't do, she can't, shut up. The old man's expression turned cold. He put his hands behind his back in a dignified and domineering manner. I've made up my mind. Their marriage has been decided just like that. The young lady's face was pale as she looked anxiously at Yiqing Luo's direction and stretched out her hand to pull the old man, wanting to say something. The old man impatiently shook off the woman. The other 2 men also followed up. Grandfather, Feng Yan doesn't mean that, you don't know, Yiqing Luo she is. I don't care what she is. Since she was the woman who had awakened that brat's bloodline, she was the one destined for that brat. I've already decided on this matter. All you need to do is to prepare for their return to the Huangfu clan. The 2 men's faces darkened even further. The woman opened her mouth a few times, but before she could say anything, the old man stopped her. It was Yiqing Luo who was slightly stunned when she saw the 3 of them appearing. Huangfu, Feng Yan, and the other 2 young masters of the Huangfu clan? Weren't these 3 the 3 from the Huangfu clan that he had met in the Nirvana realm? It was also the time before Qiao Jin and Yen Xiaoyi confirmed their relationship. They actually came? They seemed to be calling that old man Grandpa? Grandfather? In other words, this old man was Qiao Jin's grandfather? You know them? Hearing Yiqing Luo calling out his granddaughters and grandsons' names, the old man's brows creased as he looked suspiciously at Huangfu Fengyan and the rest. Huangfu Fengyan's beautiful face revealed a trace of panic. Grandfather. We, to be able to make eldest young master Huangfu, 3rd young master, and 4th young miss call you grandfather, I presume you're the Huangfu clan's patriarch, Huangfu Zhentian, right? After knowing the other party's identity, the sharpness in Yiqing Luo's eyes had already been restrained. Although he wasn't too sure what had happened between Xiao Jin and the Huangfu clan, he wasn't too sure. He wasn't too sure why Xiao Jin would leave the Huangfu clan. However, the other party was still Xiao Jin's grandfather. As Xiao Jin's brother, she naturally wouldn't be too overbearing. The old man, who was Huangfu Zhentian's white brows rose as the gaze he shot at Yiqing Luo was filled with a different kind of scrutiny. Looks like you're rather familiar with the people from the Huangfu family. In Huangfu Zhentian's eyes, Yiqing Luo was just a small cultivator from the earth realm. Their Huangfu clan had always resided in the heaven realm and rarely appeared in the lower realm. How did Yiqing Luo know Huangfu family's young master and young miss? Furthermore, he could tell. Those three people from Huangfu family also recognized Yiqing Luo. Huangfu Zhentian immediately waved his hand. Since we've known each other for a long time, then it's even easier to decide. Now, we will return to the Huangfu clan and arrange the marriage for you too. The three from the Huangfu clan were so shocked that their faces turned pale. Just as he was about to speak, Pei Sheng finally reacted, and his eyes widened as he looked at Huangfu Zhentian with a dumbfounded expression. What? You want me to marry Ah Luo? Me? Ah Luo? He repeated in disbelief. Huangfu family's rules are as such: if it's a lady who stimulated your Huangfu bloodline, then, this lady will be your destined person. Huangfu Zhentian spoke in a matter-of-fact tone. Moreover, aren't you very reliant on that lady? I. Pei Sheng's face flushed red from Huangfu Zhentian's words. Marry Ah Luo? Chapter 38:55. If the Overlord heard it, his little life would be lost. Pei Sheng's mental state was on the verge of collapse. How old are you? You're getting married and you're still shy. This matter has been decided. Do you have any objections? Huangfu Zhentian looked at Pei Sheng with disdain and displeasure. As though there wasn't a single part of Pei Sheng that caught his eye. Following that, he swept his gaze towards the three people who were surrounding him, who obviously had something to say. Being stared at by Huangfu Zhentian's domineering and dignified gaze. The three of them wanted to speak but didn't dare to. Just as the entire main hall had sunk into a strange atmosphere. A cold and dignified voice brought along an oppressive pressure as it poured over, towards old Master Huangfu's words. I have an objection. At the same time, there was a light panting but a loud and clear voice. I don't agree. Two voices were heard at the same time. It instantly attracted everyone's attention. Huangfu Zhentian felt that the dignified voice was very familiar. But momentarily, he couldn't recall when he had heard it before. On the contrary, it was the three people from the Huangfu family who were beside him who were so scared that they started trembling. Outside the main hall, a tall figure walked into it. The first thing that entered their eyes was that luxurious and pressing purple robe. Following that, it was that oppressive and sharp aura that was emitted from his entire body. When people looked at his absolutely magnificent face, they couldn't help but feel a chill run down their spines. They were forced by this invisible aura until they didn't dare to look straight at him. He walked over slowly. His brows were like swords, his dark eyes like a lake. As he got closer step by step, he was like an unsheathed sharp blade, emitting an incomparably cold frost. Cold and domineering to the extreme. Huangfu Zhentian's pupils suddenly constricted. His entire mood became stiff and solemn. Overlord. Huangfu Zhentian stared at the man who was walking over. I heard that there's news of Overlord in the Earth realm. I've not expected that Overlord is really here. He paused as his vision shot towards Yiqing Luo and Pei Sheng, who were stunned on the spot as his voice deepened. I wonder if Overlord has any objection towards me? I have no objection towards you. Dmo Xian had already walked closer, and that domineering and imposing aura seemed as though it was going to destroy everything in the surroundings. As he approached, Huangfu Zhentian felt an enormous pressure pressing down on him. Ben Zun has a big objection to your decision. The man's deep and husky voice said word by word. Huang Fuzhentian was shocked by his sudden approach to the point of taking a step back. You. Huang Fuzhentian's brows creased tightly as he stared at Dmo Xian. Dmo Xian took a direct stride, passing Huang Fuzhentian as he walked right in front of Yiqing Luo. You want to ask why, right? Dmo Xian's thin lips curled up frivolously as he suddenly stretched out his hand and wrapped it around Yiqing Luo's slender waist, pressing the young lady into his arms. Then, he glanced sideways. His eyes, which were as deep as a lake, were filled with a cold light. Why do you think so? Huang Fuzhentian was immediately stunned. He looked at Dmo Xian in shock, and looked at the hand which was wrapped around Yiqing Luo's waist. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Was he seeing things? Was he seeing things? Why was the overlord hugging Yiqing Luo? Dmo Xian's appearance made everyone break out in cold sweat for Huang Fuzhentian. Chapter 3856. Dmo Xian shot a chilly glance over. His thin lips curled up as he spoke with a smile which didn't look like a smile. If you had that kind of thinking, do you think you would be able to live till now? That gaze was so cold that Pei Sheng couldn't help but shrink back as his face was filled with terror. Damn! He was so wrong that he wanted to cry alright. The person who insisted on matching him with Yiqing Luo was that old man. What did it have to do with him? He was also a person who got shot while lying down alright. Dmo Xian retracted his gaze, and when his gaze fell onto Yiqing Luo, the look in his eyes became gentle and affectionate. Yiqing Luo, who was brought into the man's arms, naturally wrapped her arms around the man's waist as she raised her head and looked at Dmo Xian. Are you tired? Are you hurt? Not tired. Dmo Xian bent over and planted a kiss on her forehead as he spoke in a warm voice. Don't worry, there's nothing in this realm which can hurt me. Seeing that his expression wasn't unwell, Yiqing Luo then put on a straight face as her fingers hooked and pinched his waist fiercely. Who asked you to not rest properly, taking the opportunity when I'm asleep to do other things behind my back? Can't you just rest properly? He knew how to love her and take care of her body. Why didn't he know how to love her and take care of her? Hearing the young lady's worried words, Dmo Xian's brows flashed a trace of pampering smile. As he bent his head close to the young lady's face, that pair of black obsidian-like pupils were gradually tainted with a dark and deep luster. It seemed like there was some hidden emotion which needed to be harmonious. He leaned close to her ear as his voice was very hoarse, carrying an obvious meaning. You know how I can rest well. Yiqing Luo. Her face turned black. Damn it, she didn't know. Didn't want to know. Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes at him as she raised her hand and pushed the man's broad and muscular body away. Scram. The interaction between the two. In everyone's eyes, it was so sweet that it made their teeth ache. Especially when they saw Yiqing Luo had no qualms as she directly pushed Dmo Xian away and arrogantly asked him to scram. They were all stunned. This was probably. You must be the first person who dares to tell Lord Dizun to get lost, right? But looking at Dizun's sweet smile and tenderness, Dizun could not help but laugh. Alright. The reason why the imperial madam could be so daring and fearless was because the overlord doted on her. Once again, the profound practitioners of the various great powers felt it deeply. The love between Dizun and Di Furen. The profound practitioners were aware of this a long time ago. But, only now did Huang Fuzhentian seem to have understood something. He was completely dumbfounded. His eyes widened as he stared in shock at the two people hugging in front of him. Overlord, and Yiqing Luo, the two of them. Huang Fuzhentian couldn't believe his eyes. He immediately turned his head and glared at the three people behind him. The three from the Huangfu clan were pale, and their bodies were trembling slightly. When he met Huang Fuzhentian's gaze, the three of them subconsciously averted their gazes. Huang Fuzhentian immediately understood. The three of you already knew? Huang Fu Fengyan bit her lower lip as she spoke softly, "Grandfather, we wanted to tell you. But you didn't give us a chance to speak." Every time they opened their mouths, they were blocked by Huang Fuzhentian. What could they do? They were in despair too. Chapter 3857. Huangfu trio lowered their heads. They felt resentful from being scolded but didn't dare to voice it out. Huang Fuzhentian looked at the surrounding gazes as he felt embarrassed. He cleared his throat and tried his best to maintain a serious expression. Following that, he pointed the spearhead towards Pei Sheng, "Stinky brat. Since it has nothing to do with Yi Qing. Miss Yi, why didn't you say so earlier?" Pei Sheng had a dazed look. After Huang Fuzhentian scolded Pei Sheng, he cupped his hands towards Dmo Xian. "It's a misunderstanding, a misunderstanding." Dmo Xian shot him a glance with a smile which didn't look like a smile as his thin lips curled into a frivolous smile, with a hint of coldness. Huang Fuzhentian felt even more embarrassed. Yi Qing Luo pushed Dmo Xian as she tidied up her collar and opened her mouth to break the deadlock. "Huangfu family's old master. Why did he come all the way to the Earth realm?" She paused slightly as she pointed at Pei Sheng. "According to Ah Sheng's memory, he has a father and mother and he grew up in the Earth realm since young. Old master's trip here is to grab hold of Ah Sheng, talking about this and that, deciding on Ah Sheng's marriage. Have you ever thought about Ah Sheng's thoughts?" Huang Fuzhentian's opened mouth slowly closed. The expression on his face slowly turned solemn and grave. Yi Qing Luo didn't wait for him to continue speaking. His gaze fell on the slender figure outside the main hall's door. Also, the old master made a mess of matchmaking without saying a word. "Not only does my Ah Xian have objections, but I'm afraid that, and Ah Sheng also have objections." Following Yi Qing Luo's words, everyone looked towards the main door. They saw a delicate lady standing at the door. The ice blue long dress made the lady look lively and lovely. When Pei Sheng saw that person, his dark golden eyes flashed as he suddenly stood up from the ground and looked over in a daze. "Little sister. Brother Sheng." The lady pursed her lips as she called out. Following that, she lifted her leg and walked into the main hall. "Wasn't this Lady Gu Zishi?" Pei Sheng immediately went up and grabbed Gu Zishi's wrist. "Why are you here?" Gu Zishi raised her head as her beautiful eyes looked at Pei Sheng's face without blinking. She took a deep breath as her pearly white teeth bit her lower lip. "I came here with the Overlord." Pei Sheng wanted to say something. Huang Fuzhentian suddenly pushed Pei Sheng away and sized Gu Zishi up from head to toe. The more he looked, the deeper his frown became. After that, he took a few glances at Yi Qing Luo's direction. You're the lady who followed the Overlord and shouted that she had objections?" Huang Fuzhentian naturally heard the lady's voice that rang out together with Dmo Xian earlier. It was only because he saw Di Zun. He didn't care about the objection that the woman shouted. But now, he saw this woman. Then, he saw the atmosphere between the woman and Pei Sheng. Huang Fuzhentian furrowed his brows. "Lord Di Zun has an objection because of Miss Yi. Little miss, what about you?" Gu Zishi's eyes flashed when she was called out. Under the pressure of Huang Fuzhentian's aura, even her delicate body was slightly trembling. However, when she glanced at Pei Sheng, she felt a chill run down her spine. However, she stubbornly raised her head and her beautiful eyes met Huang Fuzhentian's. "It's because of Brother Sheng." Her crisp voice paused after every word, without the slightest hesitation. Her voice was like thunder as it landed heavily on Pei Sheng's heart. It was like a huge hammer, smashing down heavily. In his heart, he roughly guessed something. His entire person instantly became nervous. His heartbeat suddenly sped up. Just at this moment. Chapter 38:58. Pei Sheng's heart skipped a beat. Little sister, Gu Zishi used her gaze to stop him from saying what he wanted to say. I don't want to wait anymore. Gu Zishi looked at Pei Sheng and said softly, Pei Sheng, I really don't want to call you Brother Sheng anymore, and I don't want to hear you call me little sister, Pei Sheng's throat tightened. Looking at Gu Zishi's determined eyes, he wanted to escape for a moment. However, his hands were tightly wrapped by Gu Zishi's hands. The woman's unique softness made it impossible for him to escape. Gu Zishi's eyes were firm, and she looked at him without blinking. Pei Sheng, I said. I don't want to escape anymore. Her slender fingers gently held his hand and placed it on her heart. The woman's soft touch made Pei Sheng so shocked that he wanted to withdraw his hand. However, Gu Zishi held him firmly. His face turned red instantly. Gu Zishi smiled slightly, and her beautiful eyes were filled with tenderness. Do you feel it? My heart is beating faster because of you. This sentence was almost no different from the words, I like you. It was completely clear that she expressed her feelings to Pei Sheng. Pei Sheng's pupils kept enlarging. After Gu Zishi's words struck him in the heart, his face flushed red, as though it was about to burst into flames. His lips trembled, and he stammered, little sister, he was nervous and excited. It made him feel as if there were colorful fireworks blooming in his mind. It made him unable to think about anything else. However, Gu Zishi grabbed his collar with her hand. She suddenly pulled him with both hands. Pei Sheng leaned forward. The distance between him and her was shortened. Pei Sheng, last time in the soul-devouring formation, I made it very clear that I don't want to be your little sister. The distance between him and her was very close. When Gu Zishi spoke, Pei Sheng could feel the woman's orchid fragrance. His face turned even redder. Even the muscles in his body were tense and excited. Especially his heart, which was beating wildly. He couldn't control it at all. Gu Zishi's voice was sonorous and firm as she continued, I only have one question for you. Are you willing to give the two of us a chance to be together? That voice was filled with determination and expectation. Pei Sheng's heart thumped fiercely. He immediately looked at Gu Zishi. When he met Gu Zishi's beautiful eyes that were as bright as the stars and filled with determination, a certain place in his heart seemed to have been ruthlessly struck by something. Z11, his voice was hoarse as he subconsciously spat out these two words. There seemed to be something in his heart urging him to do something. Gu Zishi's beautiful eyes lit up. The corners of their mouths lifted into a smile. However, just as Pei Sheng was about to speak, an angry voice broke the sweet confession scene. What are you doing? A young lady was courting in front of so many people. Don't you have any shame? Huangfu Zhentian reached out, grabbed Pei Sheng's collar, and pulled him to his side. Then he looked at Gu Zishi with even more disgust and displeasure. Little girl, don't you know how to be reserved at all? Let me tell you, I will never agree to the thing between you and this kid. Chapter 38:59. Whereas Gu Zishi was originally grabbing onto Pei Sheng tightly and all her strength was pressing onto him. Pei Sheng left. She instantly lost all her strength as her body suddenly fell forward. Zishi. Pei Sheng anxiously wanted to rush over to support Gu Zishi, but his wrist was held tightly by Huangfu Zhentian. Luckily Yi Qing Luo moved swiftly in time as she shifted to Gu Zishi's side and caught her. Seeing Yi Qing Luo supporting Gu Zishi in time, Pei Sheng heaved a sigh of relief. He angrily shook off Huangfu Zhentian's hand which was holding onto him. Who are you to me? This is between me and Zishi, what has it got to do with you? You're my Huangfu family's member. Tell me, What has it got to do with me? Huang Fu Zhentian held on to his hand tightly. Pei Sheng's eyes turned red from anger. My surname is Pei, my father's surname is also Pei. I grew up in the Earth realm since young and can't get in touch with your Huang Fu family. Huang Fu Zhentian's large palm locked onto his shoulder as he forced him to look at him in the eye. After that, he said word by word, but, your mother's surname is Huang Fu. The anger in Pei Sheng's eyes suddenly froze. His struggling movements also stopped. His mother, Huang Fu? Pei Sheng's brows creased tightly as he was unable to digest Huang Fu Zhentian's words. Huang Fu Zhentian looked at him. This pair of eyes of yours is the best proof. Although it's not pure golden eyes, but it's still my Huang Fu family's bloodline. Pei Sheng shook his head as he struggled free from Huang Fu Zhentian's hand in disbelief. Even if my mother's surname is Huang Fu, that doesn't mean that I'm related to your Huang Fu family. For so many years, even when my mother passed away, she didn't appear. On what basis do you make me believe you? Your mother. Huang Fu Zhentian's expression sunk slightly as an undetectable sorrow flashed past his eyes, but very quickly, it dissipated in the imposing manner. No matter what, the fact that your Huang Fu family's bloodline cannot be erased. Since you've already stimulated the Huang Fu bloodline, then you must follow me back to Huang Fu family. As for these messy relationships in the Earth realm, break it off. He shot a meaningful glance towards Gu Zixi direction. Pei Sheng was so shocked by this series of words that his head was about to explode. A moment ago. Furthermore, he had lived with her for so many years. Even though they were brother and sister, he had fallen in love with her, and their hearts were interlinked. He was excited and excited. The next moment. It was like throwing down a heavy bomb. His heart felt heavy, and he found it hard to breathe. He was unable to believe what Huang Fu Zhentian said. But his rationality told him otherwise. To be able to make the dignified Huang Fu family patriarch personally come from the heaven realm. They had definitely confirmed his identity. It couldn't be faked. However, he did not want to admit it. He didn't want to have anything to do with the Huang Fu family. After so many years of cynicism and mockery, he had no choice but to accept it. All he wanted to do was protect his father's treasure assembly exchange hall, and live a good life with the people he cared about. Tisk, suddenly, a mocking sneer rang out clearly in the main hall. Following that, he saw Yiqing Luo holding on to Gu Zixi as she walked towards Pei Sheng. Her steps were light and her back was straight. Between her long and narrow eyes, there was a cold light that seemed to be smiling yet not smiling. The way he looked at Huang Fu Zhentian seemed to be mocking something. Very provocative. Huang Fu Zhentian's face immediately turned black. Chapter 3860. Yiqing Luo's tone was obviously heavy. Huang Fu Zhentian naturally understood the meaning in her words. His expression sunk slightly as he took a look at Yiqing Luo. This question wasn't easy to answer. Yiqing Luo's attitude was obviously to stand up for Gu Zixi. If he really said that he didn't fancy Gu Zixi, that would be indirectly expressing that he didn't fancy the person whom the Overlord's wife had taken a fancy to. That meant he didn't fancy the Overlord's wife. But if he really agreed, he had taken a fancy to Gu Zixi. Could it be that he really let this stinky brat and Gu Zixi be together? Huang Fu Zhentian was in a difficult position. Behind him, Huang Fu Fengyan looked at Huang Fu Zhentian's expression as her eyes flickered slightly. Following that, she walked over to Huang Fu Zhentian's side as she looked at Yiqing Luo and explained in a warm and polite voice, "Miss Yi, grandfather doesn't mean that. But according to our Huang Fu family's rules. Like this, cousin-brother, as a branch descendant of Huang Fu family. Because of a woman, if his Huang Fu bloodline is stimulated, then this woman will be the destined person of this branch descendant." There was such a saying. That Xiao Jin and Yen Xiao Yi didn't seem to have any problems with Huang Fu bloodline or the destined person. As though he saw through Yiqing Luo's thoughts. Huangfu family's eldest young master Huangfu Dongyu also explained, because in cousin Pei Sheng's body, there is half an ordinary person's blood. Generally speaking, it's very difficult to stimulate his Huangfu bloodline. Huangfu family's third young master Huangfu Qi Fei naturally didn't want to fall behind and let the both of them snatch the limelight in front of his grandfather, as he immediately continued, for cousin Pei Sheng's innate talent and bloodline, it's possible that he will never be able to stimulate his Huangfu bloodline in his entire life. And to be able to stimulate this potential, it's because he has an extremely strong will, wanting to protect someone's will. The three siblings looked at each other. Then Huangfu Fengyan continued, so Huangfu family would set such a rule since ancient times. There were three people's explanations, which helped Huangfu Zhentian out of the predicament. Huangfu Zhentian's grave expression had just eased up. Soon after, a cold and indifferent voice rang out, so, you still have your eyes on this lord's woman? This voice was heard. The entire main hall fell into a deathly silence. The faces of the three Huangfu siblings turned deathly pale. Of course not. Huangfu Fengyan resisted the pressure and said, Miss Yi and Di Zun's relationship is as deep as the ocean. We just that you can't accept my Zishi? Yiqing Luo's cold voice interrupted Huangfu Fengyan's words. She arched a disdainful smile and raised her eyes. Who told you that I was the one who awakened Pei Sheng's bloodline? This is cousin Pei Sheng himself. Huangfu Fengyan was pressured by this imposing aura to the point that she found it hard to breathe. A trace of jealousy flashed in the depths of her eyes. How long had it been since they last met? Why, Yiqing Luo's ability and her imposing manner had become even more threatening? I didn't. Pei Sheng's eyes immediately widened as he shook his head fiercely towards Dmo Xian's direction. I don't know them. How could I tell them this? It's you. Huangfu Fengyan's face was pale as she carefully looked at Huangfu Zhentian. She anxiously pushed the blame onto Pei Sheng. Looking at Huangfu Fengyan's expression, how would Huangfu Zhentian still not understand? Chapter 3861. That kid's Huangfu blood meridian is not important. Huangfu Zhentian interrupted Huangfu Fengyan's words as he spoke in a deep voice. My motive is to bring the Huangfu family's bloodline back to Huangfu family. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but burst out laughing when she heard that. She squinted her eyes as she shot a glance at Pei Sheng's direction. Pei Sheng's expression was extremely ugly as his eyes sunk and he clenched his fists tightly as his muscles tensed up. Apparently, he was extremely angry. And his heart was surging with raging waves. Yiqing Luo tilted her head as her gaze shifted towards Huangfu Zhentian calmly. Her pink lips curled upwards with some traces of ridicule. As though she was provoking him. Huangfu Zhentian's white brows creased into a bundle. But when he saw that tall and slender figure behind Yiqing Luo, he forcefully suppressed the whirlpool in his eyes. Yiqing Luo crossed her arms as she gave a smile which was indeed asking for a beating. Old Master Huangfu's words are wrong. According to the rules passed down by your Huangfu family's ancestors, I feel that the matter of who stimulated Pei Sheng's potential is extremely important. When she said that, it instantly caused the various powerhouses' cultivators to draw in a cold breath. All of them were guessing. What was Yiqing Luo's intention? Could it be that she really had some thoughts about Pei Sheng? Did she really want to become Pei Sheng's destined person? Had she neglected? The overlord was still by the side? Not only the surrounding cultivators were shocked. Even Huangfu Zhentian frowned slightly because of Yiqing Luo's words. Of course, he didn't feel that Yiqing Luo wanted to become Pei Sheng's destined person, which was why she didn't let this matter go. Could it be that she wanted to? Huangfu Zhentian's astute eyes flickered as he glanced at Gu Zishi's direction. As expected, the next moment, he heard the young lady's chilly voice, because the person who stimulated Pei Sheng's potential isn't me, but my Zishi. Huang Fuzhentian's eyes flashed past a sliver of understanding. He gave a cold snort in disdain. It was very soft, but Yiqing Luo, who was standing nearby, could clearly hear Huang Fuzhentian's cold snort. She could also clearly see the disdain in his eyes. It was just a glance. Yiqing Luo could tell what he was thinking. The corners of Zhang Xian's lips curled up into a mocking smile. You can ask Pei Sheng whether it's true or not. As the person involved, he should know better than anyone else. The topic was once again thrown to Pei Sheng. Pei Sheng's eyes narrowed, and his expression was cold. There wasn't a trace of respect in his eyes when he looked at Huang Fuzhentian. No matter who activated it, it has nothing to do with you. I, Pei Sheng, am surnamed Pei, and I don't know your so-called Huangfu clan. After saying that, he raised his wrist. He stared unblinkingly at his wrist, at the hand that was covered with wrinkles. Let go. It was obvious that Pei Sheng's emotions were very unstable at the moment. Stinking kid. Huang Fuzhentian was stunned by Pei Sheng's gaze, and his white brows knit together tightly as he wanted to berate Pei Sheng. But in the next instant, a slight gust of wind attacked. Then, his hand that was clasping Pei Sheng's wrist was released by a gentle force. Huang Fuzhentian saw the young girl's bright and beautiful figure squeezing into the crowd. He loosened his grip on Pei Sheng. Pei Sheng was pushed away by the girl. The young girl's slender figure blocked in front of Pei Sheng. She looked at Huang Fuzhentian indifferently with a pair of cold and enchanting eyes. Huang Fuzhentian had always been in a high position. He had almost never met with such an attitude. Now he was being targeted time and time again by a young lady. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.